You're unmuted. We're there.
Okay, well, we'll call the meeting to order of the February 24th Board of Commissioners meeting. We're in the Frank Walter House Boardroom. And if could have roll call, please.
Janot,
Here.
Markey,
Here.
Matthews.
Here.
Nye.
Here.
Roloff.
Here.
Sauer.
Here.
Trigg.
Here.
You'd stand, please, for the invocation and pledge. Bob, if you would.
Dear Lord, thank you for the opportunity to serve the citizens of Benzie County. I would ask for your guidance with the decisions we'll make today. Please keep all of our public safety personnel safe and free from harm. I ask this in the name of your Son. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, you had the agenda in advance, but there's a couple of changes we'd like to make. And then I'll open it up to the rest of the board. Under new business, item H, we're striking that for today
At their request.
at their request. With your permission, we'll be offering a new agenda item, and it's called Equator Recorder Solution. And why don't we put that, where's a good place so we're using everybody's time? Why don't we just put it under H, make it easy?
Yeah.
And with your permission also, J, consider approving letter of intent for Homestretch, so they don't have to sit here for 3 hours. I'd like to move that up to A.
I would wonder if we need a K for the Headley reset session. It's not an actionable item. Is there any place we could have, do we need to touch on that today?
Yes, we should. We could either put it on the agenda or I could plan to do it during my admin update if we wanted to make that more conversational.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Because would we actually be taking action on it today?
No.
That's just for discussion. All right, let's make sure we put it under the admin report then for
Okay.
discussion. All right, so the changes that we've made is we've changed agenda or the new business H to the Equator Recorder Solution. We have removed the Maples discussion, and we have moved the letter of intent for Homestretch up to A.
I moves to approve the agenda with those corrections.
Trigg will second.
Very good. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Right, we have 3 sets of minutes for this meeting. The first set is from the regular meeting of February 10th. Hopefully you've had a chance to review that.
I move to approve the minutes from February 10th as presented.
Trigg will second.
Additional comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We now have the closed session minutes of February 10th. We'll pass them out here in just a moment. Take your time.
Trigg moves to approve the closed session minutes from 2/10/2026.
You. Any support? Mark. Who's support? Len? We'll give that to Len.
Okay.
If there's no comments or questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then you have the minutes from the special meeting that was in your packet for February 17th.
Sauer moves to accept minutes as presented. February 17th.
Mark will support. Thank you. Comments, questions? Hearing none, all those signify by saying aye that are in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. All right, at 9:05, we'll move into our first public comment. Anybody from the public like to address the commissioners? If not, we'll close public comment and go into reports from elected officials and department heads. Please.
Good morning, Kyle Rosa, Benzie County Sheriff. I'd like to introduce our latest addition to our road patrol. It's Deputy Ian Peganailer. He's before you today. He comes with 15 years of experience in law enforcement. We're very fortunate to have had him sign up to take the oath and be part of our team. So I'd like to introduce him to you this morning, so you have a name of the face with a name.
Sheriff, can I ask where he's coming from?
Well, he spent his most of his law enforcement career at Grand Traverse County Sheriff's Office. He took a hiatus and did some other things. If you recall, our canine, our canine Omar, came from Deputy Peganailer through Fresh Coast Canine.
Nice.
Top notch, as you all know, we have a top notch canine as a result of his efforts and the efforts of Deputy Dumont and continuing. But he's into that business as well. But he got out of the law enforcement for a short time. How many years? 4 years. 4 years. And decided to get back in. So,
We wouldn't have known all that. Thank you.
you have anything you want to add? Okay. Any other questions about the new dep? All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Anything else, Sheriff?
Yes. So as you know, we, with your help and approval, we move forward with the Motorola camera project. Under Sheriff and IT Direct Michael Drager were very instrumental in seeing that through. We're almost complete. We still have a few things to tie up, but we're most the cameras are in the cars, etc., and we're moving forward with the end of that project and the implementation of it. We're very happy to be updating our equipment for our deputies, and I think it's going to be very instrumental to the county as a whole. So that's exciting news. Under Sheriff, do you have anything you want to add to that? Nope.
Any questions or comments for the sheriff? Then I would just like to add, in the last 4 weeks, your department sent out a fairly comprehensive but brief overview of what's happened last year.
Yes.
I've never seen something like that before. It was really well done, easy to absorb. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks again to the undersheriff for his hard work in that endeavor. He actually did that last year. But we got it out, and I think it got released to more folks this time, and it's helpful information. I think it kind of sums things up on our end and shows you the good things that are happening up the hill, if you will.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other, Kelly?
Good morning, Kelly Long, County Treasurer. Give you a little update in our Treasurer's office. We are getting ready to enter into March Madness here next week. So for those of you out there listening, forfeitures are due by the end of the week, and that is if you're behind on your 2024 taxes, you're in year 2, get those in. You can also go online and make payments. You have until the end of the day on February 28th. Actually, we're giving you through March 1st, so if you need to pay on Sunday online, we'll take those too. Foreclosures, we got about 37 properties left that need to be paid by the end of March. Again, we have, you can go online and make that payment. We're offering ACH payments as well with an installment plan. We have hardship plans out there for anybody listening that needs help. So we do not want anybody's property. We would like to help you out if it is your primary home. And we will do the best we can to help you out. I know I've been going through my list and I've already contacted a couple people out there that were unaware of the fact that they were behind on their taxes. So it's kind of odd, but hopefully they'll get those caught up. And then the last thing I have here is tomorrow's the Big Pun versus Isabella case on the United States Supreme website. You can go, there's a link at 10 o'clock. So if you're interested, please go and listen. Could be a huge change in our world or not. We'll find out here. I'm being told we won't know the results till the end of May or June, but I don't know, by listening, maybe we'll be able to figure something out and know what's going on. I think that's all I have right now. Any questions?
Questions for the treasurer?
One comment. Cause I see it with Cindy taxes. Seems to be a huge problem with the postal service. I was getting mail and not getting mail and forwarding mail. I just don't know how to solve that problem. Like, I can't believe they've got it that screwed up because that a lot of stuff doesn't show up.
Right. And understood. And that's
Yeah.
why this year we're giving all the townships an extra 10 to 15 days. Normally in the past, our policy was to get your information into us by the first, second, third, 4th of March. I told everybody, hey, take till the 10th, 12th, whatever you have to do, get those, whatever postmarks you can get in, any credit cards that take time getting into your bank. So yeah, settlement is going to be pushed back a little bit this year to give them the time they need to get those in without having to forward everything to us, and it's a big mess. And yeah, and I know there's legislature out there right now that's pushing postmarks hugely. I believe it's gotten halfway through. The other half, they're still working on that kind of stuff, but yeah, it's an issue.
I know
Yeah.
you're aware of it. It's just maybe if I understood you right, you reach out to these individuals and tell them, or
People that are behind,
you have an opportunity.
yes, yeah, we do. That's basically the main reason we have not foreclosed on anybody the last 2 years, because we reach out and make phone calls if we can connect with them. Yep.
Any other comments or questions? I would have one if I could, Kelly. I was recently in a discussion about delinquent taxes. We'll stay on that theme. And I know that you make great efforts to help cure that for people and give them a lot of opportunity. But I've been made aware of, like, sometimes someone might be less than $100 due on their taxes for a variety of reasons. Can you help me through the procedure? If someone owes, I don't know if there's a threshold, but is there a point where we say we're not going to foreclose, we'll just catch it when the property transfers, or?
Well, if they're in the foreclosure process, unfortunately, there's nothing in statute. I am working on a couple of hardship policies that might help out the people that are really struggling, which hopefully we're going to present to the board here next month. It will help, I believe, some of these people out there that are in poverty. I mean, if you file, my goal is if you go out and you get yourself a poverty exemption and you qualify for it and you're 2 years behind, you're getting ready to be foreclosed on, we will sign up a hardship program with you and we will eliminate those fees and interests for you. So if the township approves you a poverty exemption, then I will, and you sign up for an installment payment and you make a payment with me, then I will eliminate those extra fees and penalties to help you get those 2 years caught up. But you need to continue to make sure you get your poverty exemption every year. And if you're not qualified for your poverty exemption a couple years down the road and you're doing better, you need to make sure your current taxes are paid every year. Otherwise, that falls through, and then you have to come up with all the rest of the money, including the fees and interests, to get yourself caught up. That's one of the things. The other thing is a hardship program that we can set up out there. There is a sunset on it there, and it is in legislation right now. It ends June of this year, but it's like halfway through legislation. County treasurers are very positive that it's going to pass and that sunset will be eliminated. And if that happens, then what we can do is this hardship program, you can sign up for a 5-year hardship program with us, but you have to initiate an installment plan and you have to be regular on that installment plan every year. And we can take into the exception of possibly eliminating a small percentage of those interest and fees as well. As long as you are doing, after 6 months, we can look at it and say, hey, I'm going to take 10% of your interest and fees off, keep making your payments. So those are a couple different plans I've got out there that a lot of township treasurers are using. So I thought, hey, why don't we initiate that and get out there and help the people? I do have one gentleman that finally got himself on poverty exemption this year. He's 2 years behind, and he has been like clockwork every month, same time, coming in and making his payments. So he's very appreciative of, yeah.
But
So,
I appreciate the response. I can't stress enough. I realize the importance of making sure we're collecting taxes.
right,
Otherwise, we can't operate.
right,
But there are those rare exceptions.
right.
And
And those are the people that if I can, I call them up and say, hey, I've got one guy who owes $50 and he's on a plan with me. So I'm not looking to foreclose on him at this time, but he's like clockwork. He'll be in this month, he'll pay it up and we'll be good. Or I'll call him and say, hey, I haven't seen you in a month. Come and see me. Oh yeah, right. I'll be there tomorrow. So I try to have a good rapport with some of these people, and they're very appreciative of the fact that they could have lost their property, and guess what? We helped them out, and now they're doing better, and they're excited. And I mean, we've had people who paid off their things, and we're like standing over there in the treasurer's office. Woohoo! It took them 3 years, but they're finally caught up, and they love it. So we've had some really good feedback on it.
as long as they understand they have to help themselves,
Exactly.
I'm glad we're cooperating.
Right.
That's all I have.
Yep.
Anybody else have anything?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other department heads or elected officials? Tom?
Good morning, Tom King, Director for EMS. Just wanted to give you all a quick update on the new Station 3, which is wrapping up. It should be moving. We actually have temporary occupancy right now. Just about everything is there. It's like 99% complete. Internet, computers will be put in place on Friday, and that's going to be like the last little thing. Grand Traverse Mobile moved radios over and the repeater over yesterday. And I believe yesterday they were finished tinning a little bit on the outside that needed to be done. They're to have that all completely done, if not yesterday, tomorrow. And after that, who's this weekend could be moving it. They technically stay there right now if they wanted to. So, yeah, furniture, beds, kitchen, refrigerator, everything that's needed is all there. So, and it looks really nice. I would encourage anybody that wanted to go over and take a look at it, check it out. There was a little bit of a delay in getting started, which put us back a couple months, but that was designing and rewriting blueprints to include a firewall between the garage and the station. So I'd rather have it done right and be delayed by a couple, 3 months than rush something through and not have it done correctly. So very happy to see where it's at, and it's going to be a really nice place, and I know the crews are ecstatic about getting into there.
So what I heard you say is you've got your occupancy permit.
Yeah, it's I believe it's just a temporary occupancy right now, so they can go and they can stay there. The permanent occupancy it comes as soon as everything is 100% complete.
Anything else, Tom?
I don't think so. We were able to stay within budget. I mean, we might go over a little bit. That has nothing to do with PMF contracting. Even with the adjustments they had to make, they were able to stay within budget. So I was really happy to see that. There's always those little ancillary things that you need when you build a new structure that are unexpected that you just didn't think about that come up. But I mean, we're not talking about much at all. So I was happy to see that because I really didn't think we would be able to stay in budget. And the fact that we were, I am very proud of that.
Questions or comments, Tom? Well, as you know, a year ago, last January, we made that a priority.
We did.
We did shoot for November, but I appreciate the explanation.
Yep. Okay.
Anything else? Thank you.
Yep.
Any other department heads or elected officials? All right, if not, we'll go to the check register, finance. Who did the APs the last couple of weeks? Huh? Okay.
What's gonna make?
Trig. Yeah, Trig moves to pay the bills in the amount of $340,642.95.
Can I get support?
A second.
Thank you, Len.
It's his subtle way of doing.
Comments or questions either for the treasurer or for the administrator? Hearing none? We do that by roll call? I ask it every time, don't I?
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Trigg,
Yes.
Janai,
Yes.
motion carried.
The next item on the agenda is to move into closed session to discuss the purchase of the the property for the old Benzonia Township Hall. Before we do that, I'd like to have an open discussion of whether it's really necessary to move into closed session. Most of that information has been made public at this point. We're probably getting ready to start moving into a purchase agreement. Katie, what's the challenge of discussing it in open session versus closed?
At this point, I don't really see a challenge. The purchase agreement has not been approved or authorized by either party just yet. So we still have the opportunity to go into closed session to discuss, any due diligence or anything like that. But once this purchase agreement is approved, then there's no ability to go back into closed session. It was highly unlikely. And so essentially today on the agenda, we left it on there as the option. If this board would like to go into closed session to discuss the draft purchase agreement, we could, but we don't have to. Like you said, most of the transaction has been made public already. So it's really up to this board. I did put on your desk this morning a draft purchase agreement that was prepared by our legal counsel. The realtor, Mr. Taylor, did send over a purchase agreement from, their end of things, which was given to our legal counsel. And then our legal counsel wrote this purchase agreement, using that as well as a springboard. And so it's like most purchase agreements, it goes over the transaction, the due diligence, the timelines, the title, those sorts of things. But pretty boilerplate, nothing too crazy within here. So again, it's up to this board if you would like to go into closed session or if you're comfortable taking action.
The follow-up comments I'd make on it is that there's nothing special about the due diligence. There's kind of a checklist you follow. We've already disclosed what the purchase price is going to be.
Correct.
We're not looking for any wrinkles in it. I'd be interested. Rhonda, do you have any thoughts on this? You've been involved in real estate transactions.
Yeah, there's not any reason that this discussion, in my opinion, couldn't occur in open session.
Would anybody be opposed to us then eliminating this as a closed session item? We need a motion on that? Because we've already approved the agenda. All right. So with your permission, we're going to remove that part of the closed session. Now, we do have another closed session that's being recommended. And if I could get a motion for that,
So the caveat with the second one, and Art, we talked about this yesterday, Matt is not available just quite yet. And so I am asking that we go into closed session later in the meeting. Matt is not available until closer to 11. And so if we could wait on that closed session until legal counsel is available, that's what I'm asking.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yep.
I did forget. All right, so why don't we start with new business? And the first item that we have with the amended agenda is discussion of the letter of intent for Homestretch. You want to introduce that, Katie?
Sure. Let me just get to it very quickly. So at the last study session, John Stimson was here and we talked through hypothetical long-term, idea related to CDBG housing funding and tying that with the county, partnering with the county. So the idea would be to explore this cooperative agreement with Homestretch to potentially obtain funding from other sources to help spur that development that's being commonly referred to as Crystal Commons in Thompsonville. The idea, as we talked about then, is to explore this opportunity that would house EMS operations in that housing complex to then respond to that parts of the county. We talked through some of the things at that study session about I think originally they were kind of proposing this rental relationship, and obviously that's not the intent. Benzie County would not be in a rental relationship with the staff specifically. So we did tweak the letter of intent to reflect those changes. The letter of intent is simply that. It's a letter of intent. It's non-binding, and it doesn't say we're going to move forward with this project. It also doesn't actually say that we're going to apply for the grant. The way the funding works through the CDBG MISHDA funding is you send them a letter of intent, and they, at their higher levels, talk about the project and decide if they think that's a viable project or not. And then you have to be invited to apply for the funding. If you're invited to apply for the funding, that's when we get into the grant application and the project a little more to provide that grant application that's then submitted. And again, it goes back to a review board at the state level, and then they decide whether or not to grant the funding. So today, the action in front of you is simply to approve that letter of intent for submission to the grant program to see if it is a viable project at that level.
And I noted that we already have a number of letters of support
We do.
with more coming yet. I can tell you that as I was soliciting those letters, I got great support from every group that I talked to. They're glad that the county is, again, because this isn't the first time, again, participating in housing in the community. Jesse, you're here with Homestretch. Is there anything you'd like to add? And if you are, I need you to step up there. Identify yourself, please.
There's Katie, thanks for introducing. Yes, Jesse Wolf from Homestretch Housing. The only thing I would add to what Ms. Zeitz said is that this grant is, well, the LOI and then hopefully the grant is for infrastructure only on this property. This property is across from Crystal Mountain, and it's for infrastructure. So we're proposing 8 units. It's a large pie-shaped parcel. It'd be there's plenty of room for a potential EMS facility there, and the infrastructure would be building the ingress and egress, sewer, water, parking, those types of things. So it's a project that we're budgeting about $2.7 million or so to build these 8 units. And then it'd be just terrific and I think innovative with the county for a facility there for, supporting emergency calls in that area.
Any questions? Gary, please.
But seeing how we can't rent, will this be a piece of property that'll be owned by the county? How's this gonna work?
Well, we can't rent in the sense of we're not going to have staff that are tenants per se there. Not saying that couldn't happen. I mean, they could on their own personal accord become tenants of the housing complex, but that's still be determined how we work out the logistics of rental versus ownership versus, right? But the clear part of it is we're not renting the spaces on behalf of our staff as tenant. The relationship though, the rest of the way is still be determined as to how that would work.
Because the property was given to them by, I
Right.
don't know if there's anything in the deed that would restrict any of that, but yeah, I guess that's be determined.
It is.
Right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
at this point, we're very boilerplate. This is just an innovative idea of ways to partner, to spur housing, to expand services, just, trying to be creative. Because Benzie County is little and we can't always go at it alone. And so we need to work with partners to have great impact in the community.
The bottom line is that there's a scoring system they use for these grants, and it really strengthens the score by having the county partner with this. I know that there was an effort last year to secure these funds, and the idea is how can you strengthen that grant request? And we would have to get an invitation. So if we got an invitation to apply, that's when we would have to start sorting out those details.
Thank you.
Anything else? If not, I'd entertain a motion if you're comfortable.
Make the motion that the Board of Commissioners authorizes a budget amendment in the
No,
amount of,
oh,
oops, wrong
you're on
one.
the wrong one.
Where the heck am I? One more down.
You have to go.
There you go.
That the Board of Commissioners authorize, sorry about that, authorizes administrator, I just saw CD. Anyway. Administration submit a letter of intent to the Michigan Neighborhood BG grant program. I should go back to that program and pursuing the home stretch housing to support the Crystal Commons housing development.
Matthew seconds.
Again, I'd open it up to questions or comments. There's none. Roll call?
Matthews,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig. Yes. Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, the next order of business then would be about the purchase agreement township.
Yeah, so on your desk this morning, I did give you a proposed motion that could be considered by the Board of Commissioners. I also did give you the draft purchase agreement. I apologize that it wasn't given to you sooner. It was just sent over from legal counsel. But as stated just a few minutes ago, it's a pretty boilerplate purchase agreement for the transaction of property, real property. The purchase price of $365,000 is noted within the agreement, and then it goes into the title conveyed, closing, possession, all the normal things that you would see within a purchase agreement. Part of this transaction includes obviously title work and due diligence in the property, including a phase one, a baseline phase one environmental. In speaking with colleagues that live here in Benzie County and around, it really does make sense for Benzie County to continue through that process as well. That process, to our knowledge, has not been done in the past. We did reach out to Benzonia Township, and they're not aware of a time when a phase one or phase two was done on that property. Based on some of our baseline looking into the property itself, it was titled over to Benzonia Township in the early 80s from State Savings Bank. And then for those folks who have lived in Benzie County a lot longer than me, they talk about all the things that used to be at that intersection from years ago. And so it does make complete sense to go through that first phase one and possibly phase two of that environmental. That does protect the county's liability in the long run. So if there was in the future, if there was a time when that property needed to be changed or built upon or rehabbed in any way, establishing that baseline now protects the county because it establishes the baseline of any possible contaminations that the county would then be only on the hook per se for what's above and beyond that baseline that is there now. And then we'd work cooperatively with the township in the future to clean up any possible contaminants from before that time or prior owners. And so it does make sense to do that specifically, and we'll work through that process here now as we move through this. As many of you know, closings don't happen overnight. So this is going to be a process as we work through the title, insurance, due diligence, signing, all of those sorts of things. Is there questions specifically regarding this?
I don't necessarily have a question, but something that I think people would like to hear is something that I've heard before, being discussed is, I don't know, maybe Tom talking to or Commissioner Markey talking to kind of why this why we thought that this would be a good idea.
In other words, what are we using? Why are we acquiring it? What we're going
Yes.
to use it for?
Yes. And why is this such a big deal?
Yeah, so I'll have Tom address a little bit about why this location is ideal, and Commissioner Markey could feed onto that as well, being that he's in the space. But he can talk about, why this is really an ideal location for Benzie County and our entire community, and really how this property is essentially turnkey. Obviously, there's things that have to be done to the property for long-term use of it, but it's essentially turnkey from a daily operations, and that's very appealing to us as well. But I'll let Tom go over that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And so a high percentage of our calls are kind of like this whole area all the way over through Frankfurt. They kind of come, the whole 31 corridor is a key part of where a lot of our call volumes are. And then you take about 15 down, and then we have a fair amount that work their way down towards the Thompsonville area and out to the far end of the county. And we have ambulance service or ambulance coverage in Frankfurt, which they technically right now have to come all the way over here to cover this part of the county. And when we're running 3 trucks, and hopefully, we run 3 trucks during the day, and right now we're keeping 2 trucks out at Station 2 on the other side of Homestead, just basically into Inland Township, which really is not an efficient way to use EMS resources when you're covering an entire county. You don't put all your trucks in one basket. It's a little different grass when we look at like law enforcement and fire departments, where they're usually smaller volumes like townships or cities or whatnot. Even at the county level, they don't all sit over here at Sheriff's Department. They're out and about, and they're moving. They're constantly in different areas throughout the county. You position your ambulances in the same way. You stagger them and you move them out into different areas. And there's different ways to do that, but the most efficient way is you have various stations, just like we have fire stations for townships all over the county. It's the same basic process. With our call volumes here, and as Katie pointed out, you have a turnkey operation right here in downtown Benzonia, which is an ideal location, and it was a fire department. So it's perfectly set up and designed for what we need to use it for as an ambulance. Our call volumes, when I started 8 years ago, we were doing 1,800 calls a year, over 2,600 calls a year now in just 8 years. And we know that in the next 5 years, we're going to be well over 3,000 calls. And with those numbers and over 30 years working in EMS, 20 years in leadership in rural EMS, when you're between 700 and 1,000 calls, you should have a truck on full time. Less than that, when you're around 500 calls, you should really be talking about what you want. So we're at that point where we really need to be having that day car on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it needs a place to stay. This would be the ideal location, and it would give us a much better coverage, plus helps the Thompsonville area when we have calls down in that area, as well as Station 2 does. And it also helps backfill for Frankfurt. So when Station 3 is out, this truck is much closer than any other truck would be to getting into Frankfurt in just minutes. It really is an ideal and an optimal location.
And to add on that, Tom, it also helps out the eastern side of the county as well, because trucks at Station 2, in Inland Township, if it's out and we have to wait for the ambulance coming from Frankfurt, that's quite of a drive.
It is.
So now we have a truck that could come from, Benzonia, which would half that time, the drive time.
Yeah.
Well, so.
What's the capacity of Station 7?
Station 7,
Elmira?
Elmira to capacity, I have no idea.
Do they have an ambulance?
They have 2 ambulances, I believe. They staff one.
So at some point in time, I think that needs to be incorporated into this conversation. If you're talking about Inland and or Station 2, Elmira is right on the edge of the county. Why aren't they coming back to help backfill? And I know we've had this conversation in the past. Why isn't Elmira moving this way to help when this ambulance leaves?
I'm not going to say they're not. I'm not going to say they are. I think that's a bigger conversation to be had at a different time.
Yeah.
Not a topic I'm really interested in
So
covering at the moment.
big sandbox, not everybody wants to play in it.
I wouldn't say that. But Elmira Township right now is operating under the Bennett bill. And so they're not 24/7 ALS just yet. So it is a little tricky sometimes because sometimes they're BLS and sometimes they're ALS. So that factors into responses for the county as a whole. So if they're ALS one day and we're out of trucks, naturally they're going to be assisting in that situation. But if they're BLS one day and we need an ALS truck, they're not necessarily the closest on paper because they're BLS that day. And that's because they're not all the time ALS just yet. Because they're operating under that Bennett bill, my understanding is that's a timeline. They're able to operate under that bill for a certain period of time to kind of get their bearings, right? So we're just not quite there yet because they're still working under that bill of where it's not all the time 24/7. I know that's their goal, and my understanding is they're hitting that mark quite often, but it's still not all the time. And so it really depends on what their capacity is that day and who is the closest. We have mutual aid in other jurisdictions, including Green Lake and so forth. And so it really boils down to the call, the call that's coming in, the priority level of that call, and who's technically the closest to meet the demand of that call. So it's not that we're not playing in the same sandbox. They're helping just as much as we're helping them. Benzie County EMS is still going into Elmira every single day to assist on calls, because that's what we do. We all play together to do what's best in the best interest of the patient. Did that make sense?
Additional comments or questions? Just to piggyback that last conversation, and I am going to try to guess a little bit where you're going. We do have communication with Elmira regarding need when we need backup, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So it's not as if we're not talking to each other.
Correct. In fact, there were meetings last month about incorporating them into a backup plan for when Benzie is out of trucks.
Okay.
And that's still a work in progress.
Taking the discussion just in a little different direction. I know that, and it's stated in the motion, that your division, your department has the funds to acquire the building, but how about the ongoing operation of it? The millage money that you're receiving now, is that enough to cover that operation?
I will address that. So you'll recall at the last election, the Benzie EMS millage was upticked a little bit, and you approved that, and the voters of Benzie County approved that. And that was done in preparation of expanding the services of Benzie EMS. We've been operating with a day truck, a day third truck during the peak months of the year. So we already were, taking a grapple at what it looked like from an operational standpoint. And so the uptick in the millage was to prepare for this long-term growth in Benzie EMS. So that is why we did what we did.
And I appreciate the explanation. What I'm just trying to get, we acknowledge that the community is growing. Most of the growth is coming from ages 60 plus, which probably means that there's a greater demand going forward. And I do think we need to be looking forward to this, and quite frankly, probably even a greater expansion, 10 years from now. But I just wanted to get it out there so the public understands. Any other comments or questions? If you're comfortable, there's a motion before you.
Nye moves that the Board of Commissioners authorizes the purchase agreement to purchase 1020 Michigan Avenue, Benzonia, Michigan from Benzonia Township at the purchase price of $365,000, subject to due diligence and to form by legal counsel, authorizing the chair to sign and complete necessary title paperwork with funds available in the Benzie EMS fund.
Roll off of support.
Additional comments or questions? Katie, just one additional. During the due diligence, typically the seller certainly is paying for the title work. But it's always a negotiation about who's paying for the environmental work. What's your expectations? Do you think the county, the buyer, will have to pay for that? Or do you think the seller will participate?
I'm going to have that conversation with Jason and Doug Taylor about that specifically, because we believe it's necessary to do it. And so at the end of the day, we're going to work through that process. But I do believe Benzonia Township has skin in the game on that, because Benzonia Township didn't do a baseline when they acquired the property, and they haven't done one since. And given the operations that have been on that property and their time of ownership, to me, it makes sense that they believe that they have skin in the game. I think they have skin in the game on that. So we'll work through that with Jason and the group to see if they're willing to partner in a monetary way to complete that.
And as the group understand that based on this motion and the broad statement of due diligence, we're giving the administrator the latitude to negotiate that.
Absolutely. Makes sense. I mean, we need a single point of contact for this and not spreading it out.
And it's my understanding with the folks that I've spoke with is that this baseline specifically is going to come under the spending threshold of the administrator before it needs to come to the Board of Commissioners. So as far as the money changing hands, it's going to fall within our policy. If it gets to a point where it's going to be above that threshold, you would end up seeing it again to move forward with that transaction.
And I would note, based on my own experience, that I can almost anticipate what the phase one's going to do. That doesn't preclude us from going through the purchase.
Correct.
Because we're not changing really the use of the facility.
Correct.
We just want to know, as the words language says, we're just trying to establish the baseline, that's all.
Correct.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Janai,
Yes,
Markey,
yes,
Matt,
Yes.
motion carried.
very good. Thank you, Tom. Katie, the budget amendment for the ice rink?
Sure. So for quite some time, Benzie County has held on to donated funds for the community ice rink that's up in the village of Benzonia. We've been happy to do that for many, many years. And it sounds like, from my understanding of history, is at the time when this fund was created, there wasn't another entity that naturally made sense to hold those funds. The village of Benzonia, who is overseeing the community ice skating rink, they have that capacity and they've asked that they hold those dollars, because really we're just holding on to them for them. We have nothing to do with the ice rink from a county standpoint. And so Kelly has worked with their treasurer to make that move. And so in order to do that, we need a budget amendment from this board to authorize the expenditure so that we can give the village of Benzonia those donated funds to manage the community ice rink.
Trig moves that the Board of Commissioners authorizes a budget amendment in the amount of $3,291.69 to recognize revenue and related expenditures related to the Community Ice Rink Fund.
Markey will support. Questions or comments?
That need to be in the motion. That this is now going to be Benzonia's responsibility and honor.
Well, by giving them the funds, we're closing our account. We're closing that fund and it's all going to them. So it's 100% their responsibility.
Just want to make sure.
Gary, are you talking about the responsibility of the funds or the upkeep of the rink?
Responsibility of the ice rink and.
We already don't do anything with it.
No, we don't
Oh.
do anything with it, but we've held the money for forever and I just didn't. Sure. Appreciate the clarity.
Why did I think it was more money than that? Why did I think it was around 6,000?
Kelly Long, County Treasurer. Yes, there is about 6,200 in there, but we had to, it's been flowing into the fund balance. So we've just been budgeting a basic 2,000 or 3,000 every year, just thinking that they might. I mean, we've had over the last couple of years, somebody contact us that was putting in donations. Jack Rainier was one of them. About 3-4 years ago, had been donating and it got a little expensive for him. And he requested $1,000 to help. So we've been known in the past to send money out. But over the years, we've just been accumulating. Benzonia Township sends $1,000 every year at least. And that money just keeps rolling into the fund balance. So at this point, we need to pull all that money out of the fund balance and just pay off its 6,200 and some change. And that'll
Oh,
go
I
to them.
see. We're just approving pulling out of the fund balance, not the total amount that's going to, okay, that's where I was confused.
Because we budgeted a little amount.
I
with
remember the number
budgeting.
being different. Thank
Yeah.
you. That
Mhm.
helps.
You certainly had a good memory for it, though. If there's no other comments or questions, we'll do roll call, please.
Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Janai,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
motion carried.
Katie?
The next item within your packet is the acceptance of the grant agreement for the 2025 EMPG. This grant is specifically related to Benzie County Emergency Management, Rebecca Hubers. We do approve this grant each and every year, and we approve the work plan each and every year. The part that we really wanted to note to you, though, today is that at one time, we were receiving upwards of a 50% reimbursement for the emergency management position. And we are at just about 8% as of now. And the general fund is what backfills that grant that we're no longer receiving. So this is one more item of need when we're talking to the community when they say why. This is another item of why, because the state continuously is lowering those dollars that are coming back to the local county to oversee emergency management.
And Katie, in the time that I've been here, the 9 years, I remember that we were getting 50% during that time. Am I
think
right
can
about
go into
that?
the history a little more on that.
Since I started here, sorry, Rebecca Huber's Office of Emergency Management, since I started here, it's actually been more around 30%. We were able to get 49.99 because we could never get above 50%. And that was during an ARPA supplement from the state.
Okay.
That brought us from 40% to 49%. And that's just because those funds, and again, those funds come down from FEMA, pass through the state, and then trickle down to EMPG funded program. That doesn't mean 83. Some of the larger cities qualify for having their own emergency manager based on population, and so they technically are an entity. So there's 90 plus entities that probably, disperse this layer of funds. But when I started in 2019, we were at 34%. Again, 21-22, we were able to get up to 49%. And that also, a couple things factor into that too. Every program's a little bit different. At one point, we were getting 49% of half of my wages because I was doing two jobs, 911 and EM. So only the EM qualified position counted. For example, Mount Morency did not have an emergency manager. And so they were getting zero funds, but now they have an emergency manager. So a percentage now goes to, so there's a lot of dispersing between part-time, full-time. Every time a program changes somewhere else, it impacts how those funds are dispersed. And again, because we need the state to be the pass-through, that's just how the funding from FEMA is written. They will cover their expenses first and we get the remains, and nothing ever goes down per se. Everybody's always going up, whether it be wages, program, from part-time to full-time, or just getting a new program. So yes, your level of service that is required through all those workbooks that we sign at the beginning that says Becky will do this, 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 and this, that doesn't change, but the funding source seems to keep minimizing. And so the alternate in my position, because there's no millage or any folks that cover me, the offset is general funds. So you're paying more for me out of general funds than you would or were paying when FEMA was covering a portion of my wages and benefits.
And I realize that ARPA dollars contributed to it, but I
Okay.
want the record to reflect that in the last 5 years, we've gone from nearly 50% funding down to 8%.
Yes, I'd say that's consistently gone down, again, 30 to 49 to 20 to 11 last year to 8 this year.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Okay, I move that the Board of Commissioners approves the 2025 EMPG grant agreement with the Michigan State Police, Emergency Management and Homeland Security Division, and authorizes the Chair and Emergency Management Coordinator to sign, and further that a budget amendment be approved, reflect the change in revenue, I should say. That reflects.
Yeah,
Yeah.
originally we budgeted 0 because we weren't sure we were going to get anything from FEMA. So we need to change that to 8%.
9 seconds.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions? If not, roll call, please.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthew,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Understand we have some representatives from Bacon here.
We do. I'll invite them up to the podium today. They're going to go over some of the services that they provide to the community from Bacon, as well as the ask today's to sponsor a 2% tribal allocation grant. We did include the presentation in the packet, so everyone does have it. This is Miss Diane Mahoney, and so she'll go over the request.
Good morning. Again, Diane Mahoney, Executive Director of Bacon. I'm very grateful for your consideration of a grant application for the 2% tribe. I'd like the opportunity to kind of update you on what we're seeing at Bacon because it is an important part of the community, the people that we serve. So over the last year, we continue to serve about 1,100 households annually. It's about 3,000, just under 3,000 neighbors. So people that are living in our community. And we're seeing about 8,800 visits. Those are visits to our facility. And people normally come into our doors for the first time for food support. That's how they come in. They can also get clothing or household assistance support, as well as financial assistance and adult education. So those programs have been very core to Bacon for the last 40+ years, but we also have outreach programs through the Blessings in a Backpack, and we have a senior red bag program that we do with Benzie Senior Resources. So those numbers, those outreach numbers, are not reflected in that 8,800. What we're seeing at Bacon over this past year, the percentage of people we serve from Benzie County is remaining pretty stable. It's more than 2/3 of our clientele, and the rest are coming from Northern Manistee County, or they don't have an address. They're homeless, they're transient, and they are finding shelter in our community. One thing we did notice differently this year is the percentage of the migrant population we were serving dropped from 8% to 2%. So that was pretty much the only demographic change that we really noticed. And I think everyone here knows we do serve people who are determined to be in financial need. And so we look at that as 200% of the federal poverty line. So to just give you a sense of context, we're not serving people that are living high on the hog. For a person, for an individual, the federal poverty line is $15,000, just over $15,000. So imagine, even as a single person, to survive on $30,000 a year would be very challenging. Those are the folks that we are serving. For a family of 4, the federal poverty line for Michigan is just over $32,000. So we'd be helping anyone with $64,000 and below in income. In your packet, that one of the slides show that since we've moved into our new building, which happened at the end of 2022, we have seen an increase in the number of households we are serving every single year. And when we started looking at the trend data, it really was, for me, it was a little bit shocking, because we also saw an 84% growth in the number of visits at Bacon in that period from late 2022 to last year. And we're still staffed with the same level of staffing, right? So we're starting to feel the strain of that, which makes these grants critically important to us. The proposal that is being submitted to the tribe is not for overhead. It's not for staff. It's for the neighbor services. So one of the other things that we have witnessed throughout 2025 at Bacon is an increase in the number of people coming to us for financial assistance. That has been our greatest area of growth. We have people coming in, they need help with their utility bills, they need help with propane, car repairs, housing. We helped 20 people avoid eviction this past year. So while Bacon is not in the housing business in terms of creating new housing, we're in the housing business of trying to keep people in the housing they have. So we've kept 20 people in there this past year. Our board is committed. We do not think that this increase in need is going to change. All economic indicators are showing that it's going to continue, if not grow. Moody, the chief economist for Moody, recently reported that even though our country is not in recession, there's certain states and certain areas that are very much living with recession-like conditions, and Michigan is one of those states. And I think the growth that we are seeing in terms of people coming in and needing financial support is an early indicator. The economic indicators are going to catch up, but what we are seeing every day is that people are needing more support. So wanted to share those trends with you. Our board is committed to meeting the need. They've increased our support through our neighbor services budget 31% for this coming year for 2026. Any questions?
Do you have relationships with other agencies like your Father Fred, for example, when it comes to writing checks for expenses that people come across? Do you say, okay, perhaps we're not prepared to issue once you get past the threshold, I guess, you say, well, Father Fred, has that same program. We can get you up to this point, but maybe moving forward, there are some other folks to consider.
Virtually every single neighbor that comes in for financial assistance, first they have to have talked to the Department of Health and Human Services, Salvation Army, Father Fred, and then their area churches. So we have a cap on the financial assistance we'll provide, which is 500. So people are rarely, well, sometimes they're coming in, but oftentimes when you're talking about utilities, their bill is much larger than 500. So they have to have a package put together of all their different funding streams, and we help them with that. But very much we're collaborative.
And you also, if I remember right, you also work with the Community Action Agency too. don't you?
Absolutely. Yep. So we're excited about them moving in to honor.
Just as a point of reference, I chair that.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions?
I'll make a motion that the Board of Commissioners approves the grant application for tribal council allocation of 2% funding on behalf of Benzie area Christian neighbors and authorizes the chair to sign.
Second.
We have support. Any other comments or questions before we move for the vote?
Did you not just get one from the tribe in the last round?
Last year we did. Yep.
Thought so. But
Thank you.
Last year, yeah.
Roll call, please.
Craig,
Yes.
Janai,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer,
yes.
motion carried.
Question for you. What percentage of your staff is volunteer versus paid?
So we have budgeted for 5 full-time equivalents. So that's 6 staff people because 2 are part. And then we have 190 volunteers. So every day when we open, there's 10 volunteers working alongside us. It's amazing.
That's quite a management skill you have to have, isn't it?
Well, I think it speaks to Benzie County. Good people.
There you go. And speaking for the entire board, we really value what you guys bring to the community. You're an important part of us.
Thank you so much.
Katie?
The next item in your packet is the adoption of the updated directory of charges. Every other year, we take a look at the directory of charges just to make sure that we're charging appropriately for the services that we provide. We just did this in 2025. However, with the great changes that we've had up at Animal Control and establishing new licenses and deadlines, we did offer to the entire staff to say, hey, was there anything that maybe was missed last year or just has changed it this year? And so we do have more changes to the directory of charges than just for Animal Control. There's some sheriff's office and treasurer fees as well. Now, many of the fees we do charge are set in statute, so a lot of them don't change, but there are some services that are provided that it does change based on just the overhead that it costs to provide that service to the community. We do try to not make money off people, but we also don't need to lose money off people. And so we do try to set fees that is at a break-even point for the community, the best that we can, unless obviously those fees are established by a higher level than us. And so what's in front of you today is a red line directory of charges to change some of the fees that are charged at Benzie County, and I'm looking for support of that.
I'd entertain a motion.
Okay. Move that the Board of Commissioners adopts the amended directory of charges for Benzie County dated February 24th, 2026.
Thank you.
Markey will support.
Thank you. Comments or questions for Katie? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Janai,
Yes.
Markey.
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
motion carried.
The next item in your packet is the employee benefits policy. This policy has very minor changes made to it, including adding some clarity related to the payment in lieu of health insurance and also aligning it with union contracts. As you know, we do have 6 groups within Benzie County, which is a great number of staff. And so we're working to align the policies the best that we can with the union contracts where appropriate. And so what is in front of you today is specific to some of those things. It also addresses some part-time employment eligibility for retirement so that we're clear on that as well.
You had it in advance, but would anybody like Katie to speak to any specific items in here?
Brought up the health.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly did you change? I read it, but
So we're just adding clarity to the payment in lieu of health insurance because here in Benzie County, where we're a little unique, where we have a lot of family members who work for Benzie County, family members who maybe would be on a same health plan. And so we added clarity to that so that there's no question in the future as to the level of payment in lieu that somebody would receive. So for instance, if your husband and wife are both working for Benzie County and each of them would technically be eligible for a double plan, we're not going to give each of them the double payment in lieu. Their maximum payment in lieu would be for the double coverage because that's their eligible coverage. So adding some of that clarity so that we're not overpaying and not underpaying in those unique situations when there's spouses or children or so forth working for the county.
The other thing that I can't remember what was brought up was looking at this, that you did have two people on the system, you weren't double covering some of their kids and all that stuff. Has that process been looked into as far as, how to explain this if
So that wouldn't happen because you couldn't have both taking and covering the same children. Like Priority in Blues doesn't allow for that sort of, the way they align the coverage. So that situation wouldn't necessarily happen.
Gary, are you speaking to if an employee has a child under 26 who is an
Who's brought up
employee and they're
about-
covered on the parents?
Yeah.
So they're taking the payment in lieu, even though they're covered, I think we had
Well, they would
discussed
be taking the payment in lieu if they're covering them.
the child is on the parent's benefit.
Correct. So if the parent is taking the coverage and covering their child, they're not getting a payment in lieu of, obviously.
It's the child.
So are you saying like if the child is on
This
their
had come
parents,
up.
so they're
We
not
had
taking
this
Benzie
discussion.
counties? Is that
I'm
what you-
sorry, say that again?
So if the child is under 26, they're covered by their parent, which is an outside agency, so they're not taking the counties. And in that situation, they would get a payment in lieu of because they're not taking the counties.
No, it was a situation we had identified in a committee meeting, and I think that's what Gary is alluding to.
Are you talking
if I
about,
remember
okay,
correctly.
so they both work for Benzie
Yes.
County.
And one is covered under the parent's health insurance, but then drawing the payment in lieu as well,
Mhm.
that was probably something
Yeah.
that should be addressed as not an allowable occurrence.
It was confusing when I was explained. It was at one of those conferences and I think
Oh.
some of the see if I can spit this out. The biggest problem was when the kid hit 26, it was still in college or whatever it was, and you were allowed to carry it, and one was and one wasn't. And basically, after it was looked at, they were basically double dipping on certain items. I didn't know that seminar I went to, they had a way of looking into all these things.
So that would be an audit, yes.
Okay.
And so we have done an audit too to make sure we're not covering any kids that we shouldn't be, unless there's an exception in place, obviously. There are exceptions for kids over 26 that allow them to stay on their parents' insurance, and we work through that process. But that was regarding an audit. We were at a conference, I remember that, and there was an issue in a county where they hadn't audited the children's ages, and the county had still been covering children who had been 26 for quite some time, and they didn't have an eligible reason as to why they could still be
Right.
covered under their parents' health insurance. We do not have any of those situations in
We have
Benzie County.
audited.
Yeah, we know the ages of the kids that are on our plans, and none of them are over 26
Thank you.
without an eligible reason to be over 26.
That answer your question, Gary?
Yes.
Any other comments or questions? There's not, an entertain a motion.
Okay, the Board of Commissioners, make a motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt the employee benefits policy as presented and discussed today and rescinds the employee benefits policy previously adopted on October 22nd, 2024.
Thank you, Len.
Sauer support.
Thank you. One more chance, comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloff,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
motion carried.
The next item in your packet is action to give the ownership of wireless modems to the outside entities who are utilizing them. Corey Ellis is here today. He could go into some detail regarding that because I'm not as techie as some of them. But essentially, this is kind of a next step or a feed off from the MDT discussion that we had several months back when we released the ownership of those MDTs to the various agencies. This modem is part of that process. So we're releasing the ownership of those modems as well to those agencies so they could do as they wish with those devices. Did I cover it?
And at that time, just trying to get some clarity, some of them discussed that they would not follow Benzie County's procedure on that. If I'm mistaken.
Corey Ellison, 911 director. Some of them chose not to follow I wouldn't say the procedures, the parameters that we put around it. So there was a lot of conversation. This was a rather involved topic on both sides of it. And so from the county's perspective, we said that the original intent that we bought these for was to have CAD in the responding vehicle so that those agencies had access to it. Moving forward, we wanted that to be the same intent, and some chose not to do that when we said we can't pay for all of it anymore. You need to provide some of the funding yourself. They chose not to do that, so we pulled those modems back. But we said if you continue forward, we will replace that modem because it needs replaced anyway. That was the good faith part of the conversation. And now that we have done that, we're essentially, to summarize it, we're exiting that part of we're getting out of that business. We're not providing that anymore. You got 5 years, basically. Here's your notice, figure it out going forward. We're done. That was the intent of all of it.
So they would actually have budget for it in the future.
Yes, yep.
Yeah, I thought that's what was going on. Thank you.
Is there any other questions or comments? If not, I'd look for a motion.
I'll read it, that the Board of Commissioners declares wireless modem devices as described in the communication from 911 Director Corey Ellis dated January 26th, 2026 as surplus and authorizes the transfer of ownership to each device to their respective agencies.
Thank you, Gary.
I support.
Lynn?
Mhm.
Other comments or questions?
Just noticed that Thompsonville got 2. Sorry,
Outstanding.
because they have fronts, I guess.
So originally when it was, we kept with the original plan for deployment for Thompsonville. Originally when it was done, Thompsonville Fire Department, Thompsonville EMS, separate agencies, separate entities. So they had 2. Now that they're one agency, we were already working through this. It's the same thing that happened in Elmira. Elmira had one at the fire department side and one on the EMS side. They combined after the original deployment. So that's why they're listed as 2. Yep.
Additional comments or questions? Please.
So this is kind of like what we did with the computers, right? This is
Yeah.
kind of the same thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Okay, and then this has been communicated. I don't know, I think last time there was kind of concern that the townships didn't know the fire. Anyway, just asking the question.
Yeah, so there's been conversation around it, and that's
Okay.
why we're doing this at the very beginning. Some of these modems that are on the list aren't even installed yet because of
Okay.
back order supply chain issues. But that's why we're doing this at the beginning of the conversation
Okay.
of saying, hey, we're still, if you don't have it, we're still installing it. Like, we're going to pay the bill for that. We're still doing that. But it's now yours into the future. So you have 5 years because that's the service life on those. That's the service plan. You have 5 years to budget this and figure this out. But we're not going to continue it from a dispatch perspective.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Good comments and questions. Anything else? Roll call, please.
Matthews,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
motion carried.
So we're at 10:15. Would anybody like to take a break for 5 minutes?
Please.
Let's take a break.
All right.
Now you're unmuted.
10:21, we're back in session. If you remember, under the agenda for new business, H is now Equiture Recorder Solutions. Before you introduce it, there was a memo on your desk when you arrived. I want to give a couple minutes for them to read the memo, and then I won't expect you to go through the supporting documents, but let's take a look at the memo first.
We're extending an agreement with a company we're already in contract with.
Kind of. Kind of.
Clear as mud.
maybe we'll fix it.
All right, Corey, you want to introduce the subject, please?
So we have a recorder solution for dispatch. We talked about our record and retention policy not that long ago, and we identified several phones and the CAD and the radio that were in that document. So this solution is what records the phones and the radio side of it. Right now, we've had a few issues in the past couple of years, I would say, with retention. And to be extremely clear, we have not lost records that I'm aware of that we should have had. We have kept records that we should not have kept. That's the retention issue. But we're holding on to things that we shouldn't have held on to. There's also been some performance issues where it takes longer than it should. I'm trying to pull records out, trying to review them. It's taking several minutes each time instead of instantaneous as it should be. So it's not really performing how it's supposed to. The equipment that's there, the hardware and the software was replaced in 2019. So we're looking at 7 years. That's not terrible for that. It was on capital plan as well for next year. With the recent, we had another retention issue and another performance issue, meaning we had records that should have been let go, to be clear. There wasn't an issue where we had to release those and they should have been gone. None of those happened, but when I was doing searches, I found records that should have expired. They weren't relevant to any FOIA requests or anything like that. They just happened to be present and I noticed the date on them. So we're kind of at the point now, we're in a 5-year agreement with this current company from their original deployment. We're in about to enter the final year. That comes up in March for signature. And so we've had conversation with them and I asked them, what's your solution to this issue? They're not suggesting that the issues we've identified are 100% because of the hardware and the software that's out of date, but they're saying it's a contributing factor for sure. Because we're on an outdated platform that they don't provide service for other than under agreement right now, that's a contributing issue. There's an upgraded version that we need to be on and it will resolve this. So because we're in the final year or we're about to enter the final year, they said we can do a 6-year on a renewal, get you replaced now. We still need that final year because that was the original agreement and we'll roll that into the new one to get you new hardware and new software up front. So that's essentially what we're looking at. I don't believe that it's a vendor issue. We did not go through a process to bid this out because I don't believe that's the issue. I believe it's the outdated equipment. I have talked with other PSAPs that are on the same version as us and they've had struggles as well. And I've talked to some that have upgraded to the new version and they've said they've had no issues that they previously had. So it would be my opinion that it's just outdated equipment. It's 7 years old and we're asking a lot of it. This solution records literally 24/7, 365. Every minute of the day it's recording something. So it's a very high use platform.
Corey, just for some background here, this wasn't a discussion we had when we were setting the agenda for today's meeting.
Correct.
Can you explain why this was introduced at the 11th hour?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was trying to get the information from the vendor. The original quote they sent me included some additional things that we were not ready to have a conversation about yet. So I asked them to separate that. So there was a delay in getting that, and that's why it came last minute. But my main concern of where I didn't want to be, and this is the same conversation I had with Katie, I didn't want to be the decider on it, is it would be, in my humble opinion, in a non-legal licensed person, that they've identified that there's a potential issue with our platform with retention, and that is a legal thing. And if we don't take steps to correct that, at what point are we liable for it now? That was why I was so concerned about it. I did not want to open the door to be more liable because we did nothing with it. And not have that conversation with Katie and with the board as well to figure out what we do. I didn't want to decide that by myself.
So I feel like I'm behind the 8 ball here, but so this has to do with, you said, telephone calls, so and record retention. So what I think I'm still confused. So what this is doing is any incoming calls you have, it's recording that, and we have some of that right now. It's just not where it needs to be. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I think
okay.
that would be a fair summary.
Okay.
Not all phone calls are recorded. There's a list that are identified in that prior policy that we talked about earlier.
Yes.
Those are the ones that are recorded. The main issue I wouldn't say is that they're not recording. It's that they're holding on to it too long. We provided them a copy of our policy and they have put that into their configuration, and their configuration is not releasing it. And so when I find those, they have to go in and they have to manually release things. And they're saying that obviously that's not ideal, right? But they're saying that's due to the outdated software that's deployed with it.
And so this is going to capture those things that weren't on our policy before. It was the administrative calls, right? If I recall correctly.
So this will capture the same that it's currently capturing. This is
Okay.
this
so it's not
solution.
going to expand
No.
into the things that we identified that are not being.
We're not expanding or changing anything that's recording, no. So this is essentially referred to as a hardware and a software refresh.
Okay.
We're updating the hardware and the software to be current, capturing the same thing, doing a 6-year agreement, because if we don't do anything, we have to sign on this final year of our 5th year. We're going to sign that invoice and keep going forward with status quo. And then in a year, we're going to have the same conversation, because they're not going to allow us to extend our current software and hardware. We either have to change vendors or we will have to do this. They won't let us extend.
And then who owns we own these recordings then? These are ours?
The data, yeah. Yep, it's ours.
And then we keep that here?
Yes, there's a
These-
physical hardware.
These are on our servers.
Yeah, this solution, this company provides the server itself, which is why the first year is so expensive. They give us the hardware with their configuration, and it lives in the IT closet in dispatch. So it's physically on premise.
So Corey, I heard you say you were going through recordings and you identified that things were being recorded that should have been released. Did the company ever come to you and say, look, you're under contract for this, but we have an upgrade that's going to make it work more efficiently? Or did you have to discover this glitch?
I discovered it. It's come up a couple of times that we've had an issue with the retention specifically. And so I shouldn't say the most recent email that I sent them to have this conversation, I also included Katie on. I was pretty stern in my conversation with them of, I need a solution to this. You need to tell me what the issues are, because we can't keep doing this. And one of the things they identified in that list was because we're on outdated software and hardware.
Is there any concern in entering into a contract that's going to span another 6 years, that something's going to happen at 4 years that you're going to have to figure out again? It concerns me that they're not saying, we have a better product, you're on this will work better to keep you compliant, this is what you need to switch to. It concerns me you had to discover it.
Sure.
And then entering into another long-term contract where things could occur in the interim again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bring up a really good, my concern is, Ronette is very little background time on this. Is this something that could have waited till the next for the commissioner meeting?
My concern with that is in the conversation I had with Katie was the longer we wait on it, it's my opinion, again, my opinion only, that that's the longer liability we're waiting. It's now sitting on my desk and I did not bring it up for conversation. So I hold that weight and I was not comfortable with that.
I'm never really comfortable acting on something I didn't get to have a chance to a little bit. And I understand and I respect what you do and how you do it. I appreciate what you do, so I guess I'm good with this.
I don't know. I'm getting used car salesman vibes from this whole thing. We can't give you a solution. We can't do a workaround. We can't do a software patch. We can't do any of those things that kind of help this thing limp along to get through this last year while providing good customer service. But yet I had this thing to upsell you at a higher price over on the other side. Trust me, we'll trade in the jalopy, will give you a new Ferrari. I don't see that as an honest way of doing customer service. I guess that's and that you had to do all the legwork, it sounds like. They didn't approach you saying, hey, we've identified this issue. Here's how we plan on doing that. Their first response sounds like, well, yeah, we'll sell you this new software and hardware and that'll fix it for sure. Trust us. You know, and I'm not sure
Well, I
that's
think
legit.
what I would say about that too is not all of our vendors are going to bring the problems to us. We have to find them.
Sure.
There's an issue with BSNA. I don't expect BSNA to send me an email and say, hey, we found an issue with this. We're finding it.
All right.
And we're taking it to them. To address the workaround part, they're going in manually. That's what they did last time. They go in manually and adjust the settings for every device that's being recorded to ensure the retention is applied again, and then they push it again. So that they are making it work for now until we can get to the end. If that was the approach we took, was to status quo for another year. But we'll be in the same conversation next year. They won't extend that platform.
There are other companies that do this.
Yes, I'm aware of 2 other vendors that provide it. The Hesitation is one of them I would not bring as a recommendation. I would not stand behind it. The other one is extremely expensive. It is like the Lamborghini of recorder solutions. It does way more than we will ever need it to do. And there's no way to bring down the price on that. You get it all. You don't get to pick and choose. So I believe that we're in the middle of the road with this vendor. And you know, like I said, I don't believe I don't get the impression that it's the vendor trying to upsell us. It's them identifying you're on an antiquated system that we're holding on to, that we're keeping working, and we'll continue to do it for another year if that's what you choose. But here is the fix. And we're not, in a year, you're going to have to pick that fix anyway, or RFP it and go with another vendor.
Katie, Corey, you had mentioned that this was on the capital plan for next year. Are these prices in line with what we expected the change to be?
It's actually a couple $1,000s less. I think I had said 40 grand as a shot in the dark because I'm new to that. And we came in
35.
30 something, right?
35.
35.
Have nine.
Look pretty good.
So it's a
Yes,
saving.
I would say. Yeah. We also have to consider as well to maybe tag onto the conversation about whether or not we would switch vendors. We have other integrations that would be other costs we would have to pay for then.
Mhm.
So it would be above and beyond that. So if we looked at the other vendor, not only are they going to be out of the gate more expensive, we're going to have to pay those integration fees. And now we're just adding on more.
Please.
With regards to it not currently performing the way it should, did it perform the way it should when we first got it?
Yes, I've noticed a degradation just since I started.
And do we know what's causing the degradation?
The data itself, the overwrite, the constant the write release of the hard drives and the data is causing them to slow down.
So we're actually having probably some either data and hard drives are starting to become corrupt, some of the
Essentially.
sectors.
Yeah, that's the way I understand it. Yep.
Okay. In this contract, I didn't see anything with regards to performance or guaranteed of. So you notice that there's some degradation occurring from the equipment that was just installed in 2019. Again, having a contract 6 years, is the hardware going to perform that well 6 years from installation, right? I'm hoping that there's some type of language around okay, in 5 years from now, we're running to the problem that you're experiencing today. Are they just gonna say, yep, well, now it's time for you guys to renew your contract early and we're gonna
I think it's a valid point.
Is there something we could have written into it that would
I-
require them to make sure we
It's-
get 6 years worth of?
I'm more concerned about why is the performance changed from 2019 till today, right? I can see some from the hard drives being degraded a little bit, getting sectors that you can't use. Are they going to move to steady state drives? Are these going to be?
It's my understanding that right now we're on, for those that understand, we're on traditional hard drives that spin.
Yeah.
That's very antiquated.
Is this
so
new solution going to go to steady state
solid
drive?
state drive. Yep.
Okay. And another thing that could have caused a change from performance from 2019 till today is that software upgrades, right? I'm assuming our switch and network's only going to be getting faster, so that wouldn't be a bottleneck causing a degradation or performance issue. But the software upgrades, they could be putting more demand on the processors that have to do this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Sometimes these problems are self-inflicted, not by us, but by the vendor, is what I'm getting at.
Corey, 3-part question for you. First, you had anticipated that there was going to have to be some kind of upgrade because you'd budgeted it for next year. What's the consequences of not acting on it today? And if we were to wait, what more could we learn in the next 2 weeks that would give us information to be able to support or not support this request?
Sure. So the first part of the question, I think, is a liability side. If we don't act on it, we don't do anything with it, there's potential that we could have records that we are supposed to have, but we don't, which we haven't encountered yet. Or we have records we're not supposed to have that we still have and we need to release them. I think that's for me, from my perspective, that's the main driving point of this, right? Is we've identified that as an issue. What are we going to do to correct that? To the second part of your question, I'm not sure. I think it would depend on what additional information this body needs me to bring, or needs the questions that need to be answered. More than happy to engage in that conversation. But I guess I'm not sure what else additionally I would need to bring, unless there were some other questions that I couldn't answer.
Is there additional information that members would like to have before you act on this? And Tim, if I could, I'd like to start with you because quite frankly, I think you're the most knowledgeable in these things.
I'm comfortable so far with what Corey's presented.
Okay. Anybody else?
Going by what Tim said, no guarantee that in 4 years we're gonna be back. Just don't like a company that doesn't stand behind their.
Well, I will say that in terms of computers in general, IT, the shelf life of hardware, if you get more than 5 years, you're doing pretty good.
And we're at 7 right now.
Should we ask for a shorter contract?
We could ask for shorter, and I had considered that in the process, but the cost is going to stay the same. We're just going to have to pay more each year. So the way that they structure their contracts is to spread out the cost of the new server. A new server is not $8,000. It's substantially higher than that. So they spread that out across the terms of the contract. And so that, in that sense, the 6 years on that specific topic, they're actually kind of doing us a bit of a favor to spread that out for us. If we go to a 5-year, I'm sure they'll do it, but the end price isn't going to change. Each year, we're going to have to pay more to still get at that 30, whatever the end dollar amount. That price isn't going to change.
So the total dollar amount is simply amortized over what term you agree to.
Yes, thank you. That's the word I was trying to search for. Yes.
Another question. So it talks in here about cloud solutions.
Yeah, there's also
Is
talk
that-
about AI in there.
Yes.
And so those were elements that were in the bundled proposal that I asked him to separate out and take out, but he didn't take the verbiage out of it.
Oh,
This is an on-premise solution and there is no AI element to it either. So there's nothing in the cloud and there's no AI involved in it.
okay, okay. So there won't be any sort of it's just going to be just an audio call, just the audio is what we're gonna have, not
Yes.
any sort of AI transcription or,
Nope, none of that.
okay. And then it will all be on site here on our server,
Yes.
okay?
Yep, it'll be in the server room in dispatch physically.
So at the end of the day, you're comfortable with this completely, that we should move forward on it?
I would say yes. You know, I'm uncomfortable for the same reasons you guys are, that we're having to push this forward a year sooner than we had expected to. But when I factor in all of the things that we got 7 years out of this right now, and we're trying to get 8, to me, it makes sense. The things add up and it makes sense that this is the time to do that. It's just unfortunate that we have to push it a year earlier.
Thank you.
So if we were on cloud, would that mean that maybe our hardware wouldn't degrade as quickly? Is that
Potentially.
what they're telling us? Yeah.
Potentially. I have a lot of reservations. I'm not a big fan of cloud stuff. I think we've seen it with BSNA and Microsoft. The price triples, quadruples, and it's unsustainable.
I'm just trying to point out that the way we choose to do it is going to be problematic for the hardware that we're doing. That's all I'm pointing out.
Potentially.
Sheriff or Undersheriff, do you have anything you want to add to this conversation?
Good morning, Under Sheriff Hubers. I understand your concerns. However, I think Corey realized there was an issue and a potential liability. I think he had to address it quickly. We sat down and discussed it. We changed the cost sharing a little bit. The old formula for the cost sharing in previous years was done simply by number of phones. Not by number of number of phone calls or anything like that, but just physical number of telephones and who had them. And we tried to equal that out a little bit. We increased our share. And I think it was fair that we increased our share between the jail and the road because that number is just based on number of phones. Okay, you have 4 telephones in dispatch, isn't really telling the whole picture. So I completely support this. I understand your concerns. I'm more worried about the liability concerns if we lose something that we are supposed to have, or we keep something that we shouldn't have, because both are equally liable in my eyes.
Corey, I didn't see a list of actual hardware that they're proposing, or is that something different?
He didn't provide a list of the specs of the hardware.
Okay. Like I said, for me, like the difference between the standard hard drive versus a solid state hard drive will make it.
Yeah, that specific element is a phone conversation him and I had. I asked him to identify like what exactly is contributing to the performance element. The hard drive was one of them, and then the CPU was as well.
So
7-year-old CPU.
the hard drive, again, I'm going to get a little technical. Is it like set up like a RAID, or is it just like a single drive?
It's a RAID.
Okay. Makes a difference. And it is backup solution here on site, or is that offsite?
It's on site. It's on the server itself.
Okay.
Yep. So it's not the greatest for backup, but it's better than no backup.
I
The
was gonna
server
say,
itself goes down, then we lost the backup, but it is backed up on it.
so the backup's not
Same server.
physically a separate device?
It is not.
And is there any liability issues with regards to not having the backup?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure there is. It wasn't it wasn't wrapped into part of this conversation. This was
Okay.
kind of addressing the issue at hand, so to say. And anything additional, I think is no conversations, I guess.
Okay.
Trying to figure that out.
I acknowledge that I really don't have much I can contribute to the discussion on the technology. But what I'm hearing said through all of this is that this was identified as an issue that was going to have to be dealt with but now you've had to move it up a year because you're having failure now.
Yes, sir. Okay. I think that's a fair way to summarize it.
Same issues affected the department for lost records and stuff, or no?
Yes.
Yeah, it's all the same. Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you.
These have been great questions, especially since it was introduced at the 11th hour.
Yeah.
Other comments or questions? Would anybody be comfortable in making a motion?
I would. Make the motion that the board commissioners, well,
Just say the Board of Commissioners approve the replacement.
I say, we're not going to consider it. We're approving the replacement of the Ecuador recording solution with a 6-year contract and not to the exceed amount of $35,912, with year one costing at $8,039.90 and each additional year cost of $5,574.42, pending contract approval by local council with funds available in the sheriff's office and central dispatch budget as outlined in the included cost allocation.
Second.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Lynn. Additional comments or questions? If there's not, roll call, please.
I think you had a question.
Oh, who did?
I did.
Go ahead, Christie.
So is this their standard protocol to have the backup on the same server?
That's not a conversation I've had with them. I
Okay.
assume maybe a little bit of a dangerous assumption, but I assume they're flexible in that. We can probably tell them where we want the backup, and maybe that's just not a conversation that's happened yet.
But there's probably additional costs involved in that.
It might be. I mean, the county does have a centralized backup solution that we use for other things. And I may be completely misspeaking. That server may be included in that, but I'm pretty sure it's not. I don't think that was a conversation we had about it, and maybe that's the direction we go with it. So I think there's opportunity to be flexible with it.
Okay.
Anything else? If not, roll call, please.
Knight,
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank
Corey,
you.
are you gonna get me a new contract then without the AI in it?
I can, yes, I can ask him to remove the fluff, I'll call it, that's in it.
Okay.
And send that to legal or to Katie, I mean.
Okay.
Katie, you want to introduce the next subject?
Yes, the next item in your packet is another budget amendment specifically for the CDBG housing funds that Benzie County has. When budgeting was along last summer, there were less funds that had been paid off to utilize to put back into the program. We've had some recent payoffs in funds, and so we need to adopt this budget amendment to allow then for the expenditure of those funds above and beyond what was budgeted. So we're asking for a budget amendment of $25,000 to recognize revenue and the related expenditures related to the CDBG 535 fund, which is the Housing Improvement Fund.
Tried to make this before, so I'll try again. Commissioner authorizes budget amendment in the amount of 25,000 to recognize revenue and related expenditures in the CDBG 535 fund.
Mark, you'll support.
Good. Comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, so we're done with new business. What I'd like to do is just change the order of something because we have about 10 minutes. Why don't we get into the administrator's report?
Sure. So on your table this morning, I did give you green paperwork. Those are stacks of information specifically related to the general operating millage that will be proposed on the August ballot this summer. That information, I did seek feedback from the township supervisors in Benzie County and asked them for items related to their expenditures, specifically to the general operating millages that they have. As you know, our general operating millage directly is tied to the township's general operating millage. And so if one fails, they all fail. If one passes, they all pass. This information has been reviewed by various folks. And so what I've done is hopefully it's in final draft at this point, unless someone else finds an issue with it. I've given you a few copies, and I did put them in green so that they're easily identifiable in the stack of paper. We have put this on our website. I've also sent it out to the township supervisors and asked that they disperse it as they see fit as well. As you know, as a board of commissioners, as a county, we cannot campaign, we can educate. And my hope is that this packet of information is educational to the community to help explain the why and what of what the August ballot will look like from a county standpoint and a township standpoint. It does go through a little bit about Headley and what that looks like. It does have the specific ballot language in the document that will be appearing on the ballot in August. And it also has some of the whys on the last couple of pages as to what Benzie County would utilize any additional dollars for. As far as the utilization of dollars at the township level, I've left that to the townships for them to communicate that to their constituents. I'm trying to put over a dozen townships wants and needs into one document, I think really bogs it down for the community. So I encourage the townships to have their own conversations as well with their constituents as to why they believe a general operating millage reset is appropriate. I also highlighted in that document the intent of wrapping in a few of these small special millages, including animal control, school resource and youth officer, as well as TNT or drug enforcement, as it's called. Those millages would then be wrapped into the general operating fund with the others. And so the net increase overall for the county is just about 0.79. So it's not the full 1.2 as was talked about because we'd be wrapping in others. I plan to start going to township meetings, and I hope to be with you at those township meetings while you're there. The first two I have coming up are Lake and Gilmore. And so I'll be attending those here rather quickly. I believe Lakes is next week, Thursday, if I remember correctly. So I'll be there to chat and answer any questions. Is there any quick feedback on this document that you have?
I do. I'm calculating your individual impact. I'm wondering if it would be prudent to put another column with the 0.79 calculation. It's right now giving an example to calculate the 1.21 increase, but with our intention to roll the 3 millages in, would it be a good idea to have an additional next to it, you know, with this asterisk saying, because the actual levy, once those millages are rolled in, will be the 0.79, not the 1.21.
Correct. From a county standpoint specifically, though, so I want to make sure the community does understand that the calculations in here are specific to the county, not the townships as well. So, but we can add additional examples. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I'm interested in feedback because the 1.21 is the county's.
No, it's not. That's the township.
Well, that's the maximum. If the counties levy the maximum.
Actually, it's 1.2 for the county, not 1.21. I know it's pin hairs.
Okay, but if it's
so
each township is in a different situation. And so if it's levied up to 1.21, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But folks may want to know the difference, what the increase would be.
Sure. So for our purposes, that's up above.
And then if this is the township's calculation, I think it should, calculating your individual township
sure
impact, because that's not clear. So
okay. Yep.
And just for the benefit of everybody, can you point us to what page you were on, please?
This is just
To the last,
Second to the last.
It's page 7.
yeah.
highlighted.
Yeah. So at the top of page 7, it's the total impact if approved by the voters. That's for the county. So it says Benzie County overall increase 0.79, and then it gives you what that equates to. Then we list the individual overall increase of each individual township if they were to levy the maximum. And that's the other part that's very important for the community to understand is you don't have to levy the maximum, and it is up to every individual township and the county to determine the need and only levy the need, not the maximum. And then in here it says townships in Benzie County are not required. So is stated. And then there's an example of calculating your individual impact. I just happened to use the 1.21 in that example. I can change the example. I can add additional examples. We can play around with that, but that's just the calculation. So folks could look at their taxable value divided by 1,000. That's their base rate for calculation, timesing it by a millage rate. And equalization has been working with some colleagues to create a calculator, to put the calculator on our website so that folks can go onto our website and actually put in their parcel number, and it'll pull the data for their specific parcel so that they can calculate the difference individually based on their parcel data that would be put into the system as well. I'm thinking adding additional examples maybe is the best way to go. Let me know if you think that's different though. I think
Yeah, I just think the county isn't variable. I mean, we're asking the ask, it's going to be reduced by the 3 millages rolled in. And so that would be the increase. And so to have that example as one of them for the county side of it.
So that is up at the top already though.
Yeah.
Of that page. It's specific Benzie County dash an overall increase of 0.7 on a home of that. It is that.
Okay.
It is on there. I can do it again though and break it out like a math equation versus making it a sentence. Do we want a story problem or?
Right. And
We
that
could do
just
both.
goes to, people who like to read documents or who are visual learners. I mean, it's, it's the same
Yeah.
thing. I think I would like to interject here probably that the administration has taken the effort to have a media presence, a social media presence now, and has started a Facebook page.
We have over 200 followers.
I will point out that you're calculating your individual impact on that same page. Using looks like a township, right? Because times 1.21. That's not impacting. That's basically what their entire township.
Right. I just used a number.
And what I'm getting at is
Yeah.
a lot of these, they're only going to be increasing by, 0.4
Right.
on
Maybe
average.
nothing at all. Yeah.
So, and that's only if the township decides to increase their millage.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I want to stress, is on the very first page, about 3/4 down, if a Headley reset or an operating millage restoration fails in 2026, the county's and each township's general revenue is eliminated. I don't think a lot of people realize that.
I think that it's been
affects the townships too.
well, that, and I think that's been hard because Benzie County was indefinite for so long. That word indefinite was always there. And I think what's being lost in the conversation is folks forgot that they voted to remove the word indefinite a couple of years ago. And they put a sunset on the millage period. There's no indefinite left. So if the general operating ballot proposal were to fail, it doesn't just fall back on the old indefinite 1982, it's just gone, period. And it's every township's general operating and the county's general operating.
Which puts us in line with 79 other counties in the state of Michigan, right?
Yeah,
We
we're
have-
one of just a small number who have not went through this reset or override, or it's many terms situation.
And I guess I want to point out, because we've made that comment, bringing it on the ballot to remove the language indefinite was a strategy to move this thing forward.
Correct.
Don't look at it as a negative. I mean, we often talk about this like we're breaking new ground of having an operating millage be reapproved. We're not at all. To Rhonda's point, I think we're only one of 3 counties that haven't put it back on the ballot for consideration. So we're definitely in the minority.
Yep. And our neighbors are doing this. Manistee just had theirs on in August of 24, I believe it was. So they had just did it. Grand Traverse is doing it. Wexford, everyone, not everyone, the majority have it in front of their voters on some sort of timeline or rhythm, right? We did not have a rhythm because we were indefinite and we just let it be. And so we're trying to establish a rhythm as well.
So we're at 11 o'clock, but the comment I want to make is the reason why I asked Katie to have her presentation now is I'm always concerned that we'll lose people
Yeah.
remotely when we move into closed session. And this is a conversation that needs to be held with the public as much as it needs to be held with the commissioners. So I'm going to ask that we continue this conversation for a few moments and let our attorney know that we'll get with them as quickly as possible. Katie, how did you arrive at using the taxable value of 95,000 as an example?
Sure. So Michael Beach, our equalization director, went through all the taxable values in each individual township, and he was able to create an average taxable value for Benzie County. He did break it out by township as well as an overall average for Benzie County. And the overall average for Benzie County for taxable values is about $95,000. Many folks think that maybe that's not accurate because we have the lake townships and, you know, those sorts of things. But really the overall average taxable value for the homes in Benzie County is about $95,000. And that's because we do have homes that, you know, maybe have been lived in for many generations. And so it's been capped for many, many years. And so that does affect some of the overall average. And we do have portions of the county who do struggle. And so those homes obviously are at a lower value. And so while it looks small per se to be under 100,000, based on the data we have in equalization, the average taxable value truly is right around 95,000 for Benzie County. And so I use that as the example so that it was a little more apples to apples for folks when they're seeing this information. Having it at $200,000 doesn't make sense. That was my original example, was $200,000 because that's just what I pulled out of my hat. But when you're looking at the actual data of Benzie County, it's not apples to apples. There are homes obviously in Benzie County that are at or above 200,000, most definitely, but our average is right around that $95,000.
I think what's going to add to the confusion, and we know this is all about education, but a number of taxpayers confuse taxable value with actual value.
Mm-hmm.
So right away, that's got to require some explanation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying we shouldn't use that amount, but because it does reflect what the average is. I'm just saying it's going to require some explanation.
Right. And your taxes are determined based on your taxable value, not what your house is worth or the SEV.
Of your primary residence.
Of your primary residence.
That plays a big.
Yeah, well, taxable value is taxable value, and everybody's taxes are determined on their taxable value. The levies that you contribute to depend if it's your primary residence or not, because that's when the housing and such comes into, or the schools come into play for their levies specifically. But everybody's taxes are based on their taxable value, whether or not it's their homestead or not. It's these school taxes that then play into it a little differently if it's your homestead or not. But yes, so that's the thing. When you look at your tax bill, you see, you know, multiple numbers, and it is a little confusing. But taxable value is where the levy is calculated based on. Your SEV is considered 50% of your value of your home. Now, we do live in a time and place where those values have went crazy in a lot of situations, and some would argue that it's not 50%, that it's, you know, under that of the value of your home. But that is the methodology and how it's laid out. Is the SEV is typically half the value of your true cash value. Taxable value is what determines your taxes, and taxable value is not only based on sale price, but then it's based on it being capped or not as you go through time.
Is that taxable value on your tax bill?
Yes,
You
it
can
is.
find that on your tax bill,
Yes.
and you would be able to do this little simple calculation on
Yeah.
your own.
Yep.
So
We
it's on your
also,
assessment too.
it's on your assessment. It's also, if you go to our website to the equalization page on our GIS platform, you can see the values of your home on there as well, on that GIS platform specifically. And then, like I said, we are piloting a specific calculator into our website so that folks can pull that up on their own using their parcel ID number, which is also on all of those documents too.
And if I could take a second in the conversations that we have, I feel like there's 5 important numbers in this campaign. As we talk to the community, the 5.29 is the maximum allowable mills for our general operating fund that was set in 1982. In 44 years now, we have rolled back to our 3.2. So we have 5.29 back down to 3.2. We have never, because of the word indefinite, had the opportunity to reset like other communities do. So we've just continually rolled back. We're at 3.2. The Tax Advisory Committee is asking for a reset at 4.4. 5.29 to 3.2, asking to reset at 4.4, which is a 1.2 difference, but that is not what will be levied because we're rolling in 3 millages. We've made that commitment, which will mean a 0.79 increase. 5 numbers. I'm a visual person. Those are the 5 numbers as I see it. And then the next questions are why, what will you use that money for? You know, important questions like what happens if this doesn't pass? There's a lot of information that we have the responsibility to get out. There's a lot that's been compiled. And I'll let Katie take it from there, how we're gonna address that.
Well,
We're gonna use our social media.
I mean,
and-
for what it's worth, we'll use the Benson County Facebook page to get information out there. We have our website, and then it's boots on the ground, right? It's boots on the ground by this group and by myself and the staff that's willing to help as well, to educate the community as to the why. It's not just a shot in the dark and, hey, we want to raise taxes just because. It's a need, right? It's a need to continue services, to expand services, to meet the demand of our community. Our community is changing, and it will continue to change as folks come and go from Benzie County, and we need to meet the demands of our residents. And this is a step in that direction to continue and to expand the need, to expand the services for those who are demanding it.
And to be fair, and to Art's point, I believe in a meeting or so ago, you know, a study was done. Municipal Analytics did a deep dive into our county finances and predicted this, that the path we were on was unsustainable. That was the word they used in the document. And then COVID happened and we were
printed
given
a lot of
ARPA
money.
funds, right? And so that delayed what we needed to deal with. And the voters, to their credit, took the step to remove the word indefinite in 2022,
Four?
2024.
Yeah, so 2024.
Yep. And so that's why this question is being asked. This is now the method by which the general fund is funded with permission from the community via vote.
That's
So-
correct. So our general fund's about $9.5 million total. This isn't 100% of our general fund, but it's the majority. And so our general fund is about $9.5 million in total. This millage, as it stands today, brings in just over $6 million. And so looking at the difference, if this millage were to fail, we're going to have to cut $6 to $7 million from the general fund. That's going to leave that $3 to $4 million left there. And those dollars would be used to provide services of which we're required to provide. That's not all services that we are required or that we're doing now. It would be the mandated services. So it's your elected offices and it's the duties that are prescribed of those elected offices. It's not everything. And so things are cut because it wouldn't be mandated to be required. We're not required statutorily to give some of the services that we do. So if we had to go into that drastic measure of cutting and cutting out $6 to $7 million, that's going to leave us with a small pot to provide the services. And obviously the services that we're legally required to provide are the ones we have to start with. And if there was anything left over, that's when we're then ranking the importance of the extra services of which we provide.
So Katie, through these discussions over what's now been several months, we sometimes talk as if the sky is falling if this doesn't get approved, which there would be a really dramatic change in the way we're doing business if that didn't happen.
Correct.
So it leads me to a concern of employees that are out there that are saying, wow, what happens to me? Because we're kind of acting as if this may not happen. How do we address that with the employees so that they understand, first, I'm approaching this as this will happen. We'll do whatever we have to do to educate the community. But what do we do to communicate with the employee?
Sure. So obviously we're hearing already some rumblings from staff, like, what does this mean for us? And I hate that. I hate that there's staff that are feeling this tug of, oh gosh, I might lose my job. And that's not anyone's intention. We value our employees tremendously. They do great work. We're going to do everything that we can to help the community understand that we need those folks to stay where they're at to provide the services to the community that are necessary. Quite frankly, though, I don't know how to address the staff. I can reassure staff every day that it's nobody's intention and that we're going to do our very, very best. But it's up to the community to also understand the consequences of a failed millage.
Well, I think it's important to stress for me, and you and I have had this conversation, that part of the education has to come from people in this building also.
Yes.
We can't leave it up to a select number of commissioners or all the commissioners. This is going to include the sheriff's office, every employee that's in this building, anybody that could be affected that has information that the general public doesn't have. This is a pretty lengthy document. Rhonda and Katie and I met last week to talk about what I refer to as the elevator speech. And I know at some point in time we'll talk about that.
That was in an email that I sent to all of you, was the short and condensed hits at this as well.
So what I'd ask of the employees, for those that we may even be listening today, is that share that responsibility with us. Let's get the information out there. If any commissioner feels uncomfortable with the information we're sharing, let's have that conversation in advance of getting in front of the public. Speaking with one voice is absolutely critical. Using the same message is equally as important. And your body language says a lot. So you say one thing, but your body language says something else, that could be harmful to what we're trying to accomplish. We're going to have lots of conversation on this. Would you like to have any more today?
Can I add one thing? Just hopefully belonging to that generation that uses social media. It seems to me that Rhonda's 5-number illustration is simple, easy to understand. If that can be put out in front of somebody along with that calculator, because the average person doesn't care about $95,000 house. I'm gonna look up my exact amount and see what's that mean to me. But those two together, I think you educate and you give a certain level of confidence in the numbers that, okay, it's only going to be 80 cents a day for me, but okay, my house is worth X, Y, Z. That, to me, that makes a lot of sense. Along with those 5 numbers, spelling it out exactly. This is why we're doing it. This is the evolution of, you know, how we got to the 0.79 at the end. Okay, I get it. And plus I can look up to what I owe. So
I did share a graphic with you. I'm not a graphic designer by any means, but it's the best I could do. So you do have a graphic in your email that you're welcome to utilize, or we can tweak it a bit. Rhonda had a great graphic. She just penned it out on paper, and maybe that's the right way to go. I don't know. But we'll work through some of that, and I'll follow up with Michael after today's meeting. He had the calculator, and he was piloting it, right? Going through it and just making sure that it's not inaccurate. But hopefully we'll have that just finalized here very, very soon, and we can start sharing that as well.
wonderful. Thank you.
So Rhonda brought this up at the discussion last week. I want to know, did you coach him?
No.
It's in your email, the really cool graphic.
Well done.
Anything else on this subject?
And Matt is online, so.
So why don't we pause for a moment, your report, and if I could get a motion to go into closed session.
I'll read it. I move that the Board of Commissioners enter into closed session to discuss with legal counsel the collective bargaining grievance matters strategy as authorized by MCL 15.268 1C, that the county administrator, deputy administrator, and sheriff's designee enter the closed session.
I'll support.
Questions or comments? Do want to stress that this was language that was given to us by our attorney. Is that correct? Okay, roll call, please.
Janai,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer.
Yes.
Craig. Yes. Motion carried.
About 30 minutes, Katie?
Probably.
Okay. Boy.
You got it, Becky?
Downstairs, snowstorm.
You're unmuted.
All right, we're back in session at 11:31. Why don't we continue with the administrator's report?
Yeah, sure. I really don't have anything else. I mean, I've been outside of what was in the packet that I've been working on. It's been Headley really and the general operating millage, other than day-to-day stuff. So there's nothing else right now.
Is there any questions or comments for Katie at this point? This is a subject that we're gonna, I'm sorry, did you have
I
something?
was just saying thank
She's
you.
saying thank you.
Yeah.
This is a subject that we're going to be bringing up at every session. Katie, the only thing that I would ask is, do you have a list of groups that we want to touch base with that we could share so that commissioners, in addition to their townships and villages, we could split up the responsibilities of talking to these other groups? Because you can't go by yourself. You need one of us with you.
Yeah, so we started a list, obviously. So I could just start reading that list off to you guys. City of Frankfurt, Benzie Area Chamber, all townships, all villages, Benzie Senior Resources, Newton Rotary, Sunrise Rotary, Lake Ann does a community coffee. And then obviously we have the social media. So if you can encourage people to follow the social media. And then as long as everything goes well with the township, the old Benzonia Township Hall, the intent would be to have some sort of open house for the community to see the new Benzie EMS location. And we would obviously have information there for folks who had questions, and we'd invite them into that as well. And then anything else that this group could think of, is there anything that, any place or anybody that you believe would be extra in addition into all of those folks?
I think we touched on the Republican Party and the Democrat
The
Party.
political parties.
The
yeah.
political parties. And then I think it's also important to note that you're going to offer an opportunity for people to ask that we attend
Yes.
different functions. If there are entities out there that would like to be addressed, that's not coming top of mind right now,
Mhm.
please, reach out and we'll be happy to send representatives from the county to
Answer questions.
answer questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the Chamber of Commerce is looking at having a joint public meeting
Mm-hmm.
with both the Frankfurt Chamber as well as the Benzie Chamber.
Okay.
Probably want to see if we can get on that agenda to discuss this too. But what I think would probably be more helpful is if you would just put an email out, take a look at that and let Katie know which ones you can accompany her with, aside from the ones that you already represent in your district. And Katie, once you get some feedback, if you would share that with me, I'd like to see that too, okay?
Okay.
Anything else? All right, well, we have commissioner reports we can move into, and Christy, we're starting with you today.
Okay. My computer is completely frozen. Can we pass quickly? Can we pass me while I
We can.
handle my technical?
Jim, you have a hard stop today, is that right?
Yeah.
How about giving us your report, please?
Hey, Homestead Township Board, they're gonna be reviewing their contracts that they do for like mowing, snow plowing, before next season. And they're also updating their capital improvement plan. Central Wellness Network Board, we discussed that the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services pulled their PIHP RFP, a lot of acronyms. And that the Michigan Attorney General asked Central Wellness to drop their lawsuit because they pulled their RFP request. And Central Wellness's answer was no. And the reason for that is because the concern is that as soon as they pull their lawsuit, the department could reissue an RFP without anything binding. Currently, right now, if they redo the RFP, it has to go to the courts first for the court's approval. They're planning on doing a compensation study as well. And then Networks Northwest Finance Committee, we've reviewed all their financial statements. Everything looks order. Everything's looking fine. And the Homestead Township Board, again, they held a special meeting for their budget hearing. And that will be voted on at their March meeting. That's all I have.
Any comments or questions for Tim?
I saw something on Newsmax. And it showed the population of the United States, and I don't, many years, I wish I'd have wrote all this down. And how many institutionalized places we had for the mentally ill. And at that point in time, I can't remember, I wish I could remember the number. We don't even have percentage of that now with a population that is tenfold what it was at that.
You're talking about,
I still think we always focus on the wrong thing when it comes to helping mentally ill.
are you referring to the number of beds available in psychiatric wards? Or you're talking about?
I believe, yes, when they had state-run boards and
Yes.
stuff.
That is being talked about at the state level, and federal level. Yeah, that is a very important topic.
You know, I mean, it's always boils down to most of these folks are at the jail. That's a shame, because that does not help anybody. Just the focus is changing.
I believe it is. Let me rephrase it. They're looking at.
Let's throw it out
Did you have a question? Did you have a question?
Change it, would you? Thank you, though.
Any other comments or questions for Tim? Gary?
Yeah. Okay, Gilmore decided along with Benzonia that that'll be the early voting up here in the Benzonia Township Hall. Alden had a request by the Thompsonville, I get all this. But I wanted to let you know that the supervisor and the board decided not to do the resolution that the fire department and EMS had presented to them. They even had an opinion from their attorney that it was not necessary. So anticipate that two individuals will go to Colfax next. See.
Question on Colfax. It's my understanding they haven't been able to get a meeting together with a quorum. Have you heard anything, you
No.
as well, Len, as far as when they're gonna be able to meet so that we can attend their meeting?
I did get a text from Deanne, the clerk there. I think it's March 23rd, but I'll double check that.
Thank you.
Yeah, 'cause it's a little frustrating that 2 meetings ago, I show up on the Wednesday, like we're normally supposed to show up, and I'm like, lesson learned, always look at the website before going in your car. And they had moved it back to that previous Friday, some special meeting that I wasn't part of. Then this most recent one, I got a text saying, don't bother showing up. We don't have a quorum. We're canceling. But,
Yeah.
and so I'm still going back and forth saying, okay, what's the deal? I mean, I understand the situation with the supervisor there and his medical issues and all that, but you can't even get 3 people to show up. And normally when I go to those meetings, it's the 3 people in front of me and the 2 people next to me, and that's it.
Right.
You know, so there's not a lot of interest or a lot of anything going on there. So I don't know what else I can do to help either get interest or assist. Well, we have
Okay.
elected
Let
officials.
me know if either of you
Yeah.
hear and confirm.
This
Can I ask
budget,
Tammy?
So they gotta get it.
Is there any consequence to that? Like a township that with elected officials that don't hold meetings for a certain amount of time? Is there ever an occasion where somebody intervenes on that?
They're not gonna have a
I-
budget.
Yeah, I have not heard of that. I'd have to research it. I know that I did have a couple people come in and pick up recall.
Yeah.
Because I think it's basically
that's the
the
only
one
way.
individual that's
Right.
not showing up.
But,
The other one being ill.
but statutorily, I don't think, I know I have like Platt Township only meets every quarter. So the frequency, there must not be a required frequency except for like an annual meeting.
I think it's the annual meeting.
Yeah.
I
You
think-
want to go to the Platts annual meeting because it's a nice luncheon.
When is
It
this?
is.
I think the issue though that they're gonna run into is it's budget season for townships right now. And if they can't get through their budgeting, that could be an issue. But I don't, yeah.
Anything else, Gary?
One thing was kind of interesting on the environmental natural resources. I wish they wouldn't. On ag and tourism. They had a discussion by group. It's promoting Macro, which is a Parks and Recreation thing, we're talking the counties downstate that seem to have quite the Parks and Rec departments. 2,500 members in 30 counties. Oh, and there was a House bill that was gonna require, because they're having trouble keeping 10 members on those boards. And the House Bill 5317 would reduce that to 7 if necessary. So I don't know. A couple, like the road commission has to be on there and but there's certain people that have to be on there. Anyway. Would that, before you leave that, Gary, would that affect us if there was a change? No, we have 10 on there now. But if they reduced it to 7, we could still continue with that? We could reduce it, but it's not a mandated thing, so that can change too. The M22 project, thanks to Katie, we're gonna have a meeting here on May 19th, 11 to 1. Idea what they're wanting to do. Enzy bus. I believe, but I haven't read the draft minutes yet, that they made a motion and passed a motion that they were going to release the attorney-client privilege letter to the community, which would give you a real good idea what was going on. And Jack O'Malley handled it exceptionally well. They dropped the whole thing and suggested that the board get some education, and maybe that'll help calm the nerves and stuff and make everybody happy, but kind of expected. Village of Alberta. This was impressive. They were doing their budget. Of course, they got there late, but anyway, everybody's interested in the community now with this big project. So we're fully staffed on the planning commission. We've had a shortage of people on the council, and that got filled. So, and I understand there's a few wanting to run for office now. So, it's, after all the work these folks have done to get them to where they don't have the state looking over their shoulder on their fund balance and their, whatever they called it, the financial end of it. I thought that was good. And I wanted to thank Katie for allowing me and Dan Carter to sit down and have a talk with her, discuss a lot of things. Dan's a trustee for Gilmore Township, so that's what he talked
He's a
her
nice
into.
guy.
He's but anyway, addressed quite a few issues, and I appreciate it. I think making some headway. We have some concerns. I guess only one thing else I wanted to say is we had a millage in this county, passed exceptionally well for EMS, which is saying the county is going to run EMS. And all of a sudden we have this other group that's been trying to infiltrate this, try to get into it. So financially, unless they run their own millage, it's not going to happen. But for some reason, this whole bunch has to come together somehow. I don't know. I think right now there's too much friction, and or you do that, less things get done, and more people step on each other's toes. So we'll go from there somewhere in the future. But that's all I got.
Comments or questions? Glenn?
Okay. I understand, the Weldon's already turned that down, what you're talking about. So if we have a meeting sometime soon, but when it's scheduled with Colfax, that's going to come before that group as well. We'll find out. So I don't know what else I'm going to talk about with Colfax. So let me move on. Besides participating with the LPT and the personnel committee, we've been working on their RFPs. We went from 9 potential vendors down to 4, interviewed 4, and hopefully at the meeting scheduled after this meeting is complete, we'll hopefully come up with a selection or at least a narrowing down of the four to another number. Also, this is the past week has been a week of orientations and visits. I toured the sheriff's department Friday, got to check out the jail and all the administrative areas and the emergency management area and all that. So that was really cool to get that. Yesterday, I attended a rather lengthy orientation with the Benzie Leelanau Health Department. I went and I was told that everybody here has been through that, their PowerPoint slide and the Q&A and all that kind of stuff. So we got through that yesterday, and I learned a lot more about all the things that we do in this county to protect health of our citizens, and that was kind of neat. Other than that, that's all I have.
Questions for Glenn?
Didn't do the fun with finance like Glenda likes to do.
I don't. So they just said they're down $1 million from last year. That's what they're trying to operate on. So doing more with less.
If there's nothing else, Bob?
Sure. The only thing that I could highlight my week with last week was a recycling meeting with Dave Schaefer and Katie, myself, Rhonda. No,
Me.
oh, there you go, Christy.
The other girl.
The other one.
The biggest, my part was disabled American veterans for the state of Michigan are entitled to 100% no property taxes because of their disabilities. And recycling has a surcharge for
The use of the recycling bins.
using recycling. And there's only a couple veterans that have challenged this to say they don't have to pay. Well, it's not part of their taxes. It's part of a surcharge. So I believe we're going to waive the surcharge. At this point in time, that was my understanding when we left. But you can further if you'd like.
Yes, so we're going to bring forward a policy for the Board of Commissioners to consider as it relates specifically to veterans and their exemptions. And then there were 4 pending appeals to the surcharge, and there was an anonymous donation to cover those 4 surcharges during the interim.
Surcharges in the area of $25.
It is, I just want to add, it is $25, but I don't want to get ahead of the board. We're making I was said on that discussion too, we're making a recommendation on a policy that would going forward waive that requirement for veterans that qualify.
Correct.
But that'll be
Next meeting, probably.
next meeting. Okay. Sorry, Bob.
No problem. That's all I have.
Any questions or comments for Bob? Rhonda?
Sure, quite a bit of my stuff's been covered. I attended the board special meeting here, agenda review. Art, you covered that in your written report. The Headley Reset meeting with Art and Katie, we've talked extensively about. I attended the Village of Beulah. They officially confirmed their $1 million allocation from Jack Bergman's office. They didn't want to speak to it till they were certain it was happening. Their treasurer submitted his resignation. They approved $43,000 to migrate their BSNA to the cloud, which was visually a rough decision for them. It's a lot of money for a village. They approved their new zoning administrator, who is Robert Hall. He also serves Benzonia Township, I believe, and a lot of other entities. And they removed an employee benefit for childcare. It was being used fraudulently by a provider in Traverse City. So they took that off as a benefit for employees, but it's not needed anymore as well. Benzonia Township, this seems like old news because we've talked about it so much, entered a closed session to accept the county's letter of intent. They came out, accepted that, and stated the amount of the purchase. They discussed shredding day again. I think they settled on May 4th, but don't hold me to it. I'll bring that back. And they scheduled their cleanup day for the second Saturday in May. And then they just spoke to what Gary's been talking about, their cooperative effort with Joyfield and Gilmore for early voting to save money. Central Wellness, the only thing I would have to add is we did get board approval with MAC submitting for the RFP for the PIHP bid out, there's an understanding that whatever entity they formed insulates consequences for the county should it fail. We've asked for an attorney opinion on that. And Central Wellness, the board agreed to that. And so I will be bringing that forward as soon as we receive it. And then the other thing at Central Wellness, Chip, stressed that they are advocating for one definition of the term rural. There's different levels of rural and it makes a huge difference in funding. So that's more work that's being done there. I also attended the Housing Trust of Benzie. That was the get together at the Mills Community House. It was a really interesting conversation. A couple of things that were my takeaways that they emphasized was that zoning matters. Where infrastructure is of course, you know, ideal for expansion of housing needs. There are a lot of options that we don't necessarily utilize in our area. He overlaid a map of our different areas, the city of Frankfurt, the villages that have infrastructure, and just kind of drew in where different housing could go if the zoning ordinances were different. And then in our more rural areas where there's more extensive, you know, we have townships that have, you know, what, 10 acre, 20 acre minimums.
Yeah, 10, but
Yep, and
Yeah,
they
it's-
exist, and just talking about this idea of, we all think that everybody wants, you know, the big chunk of land and no neighbors, and we have to get past that with the idea of not everybody wants what some people want. And there is this sense of community building and different ways of doing housing that create a better way to pay for infrastructure and the needs for that. And so it was very interesting. They focused a little bit on the tools that we can access, the TIFs and the, you know, different things like that. But it was a packed room. And Art, I don't know if you want to speak to that as well, but I thought it was worth attending. I think that's it. That's all I have.
Question or comments?
Oh, and I also attend, sorry, the Personnel Committee, with Len, yeah, that was an all-day event. We had 4 more than highly qualified benefit management companies. These were the top of 9 candidates. It's gonna be a difficult choice. We are gonna be well-served with whoever we go with, but, it was an education in itself, and, it's gonna be a difficult decision for a recommendation.
Rhonda, that group will make a recommendation. It's not gonna be multiple choice for the board, right?
Well, we will provide you with all the proposals as we should, and we will do our best to narrow it down to one for you, but it's a great group of folks who want to serve our employees, and
I
it's
could-
very tough.
I could almost see, I mean, we're having a meeting after this one to discuss it. I could almost see a second tier interview, like taking it down to 2 if we got there. But perhaps we know what we need to know. It'll be an interesting meeting after this one.
There's been some due diligence. We've called Priority Health and Blue Care Network, and we've
Okay.
been calling people to get feedback. So we'll have a lot to talk about.
Okay.
And I'm certainly not trying to avoid our responsibilities, but you just said you spent a day on it.
A whole day. I
And
can't
then
imagine.
you're gonna spend more time on it, and we're gonna get it and have a chance to talk for a half hour. So
And
I
we were-
hope that you come forward with a recommendation.
We were well represented with our staff too. We're very lucky to have the staff there that we did, and, you know, this impacts them directly.
Mhm.
And so their input is gonna be very valuable to me. So.
Good report. Anything else for Rhonda? Christie, have you
Yes.
rebooted?
Yes, that's exactly what happened. It decided to update on me. Good Lord. Anyway, yeah, so let's see. I attended the Tri-County Materials Management Planning Committee, and it was here in Benzie. So we've done a lot of discussions,
Mhm.
and so we actually voted on that our goals for recycling rates are going to be the same as the state recommendations. So that's 50% by reducing 50% by 2030. And we did discuss how this was an highly ambitious goal. So I'm like, and just thinking about organics, right? We have some leaf collections, you know, here and there, but for us to get to 50% on organics, I think it's going to take a whole lot of infrastructure that we just
True.
well, and it's not just that. What we're kind of focusing on too, when I'm talking about organics, is not just that, but it's also food waste, right? So what I think I've talked about this before, where the majority of the weight that goes into the landfill is food waste. And I've talked about why that's a bad thing, right? Because it immediately goes to methane gas. It overtakes the methane scrubbers, and that methane comes out. It overwhelms it because it's so quick to make methane. So anyway, right now we have no infrastructure. Grand Traverse is looking at some things, but they wouldn't be able to accommodate 3 counties worth. We're thinking we need like 10,000 pounds to be able to process 10,000 pounds. And we are just not there yet, but we want to be. So more to come on that. Yes, and so we talked about too, there's something called Metro Store collection containers. And again, we had a lot of discussion that these would have to be near our recycling containers. They are sealed, and so they're pest proof, and you'd be able to put your organic material in that. Again, that is just one component of the infrastructure piece, right? You need somebody to haul these. You need somebody to take them to somewhere to store it and to hopefully get it then to a processing place, and then somebody to process it. And then you need a buyer, right? For this organic material, basically a market for compost, or I don't know what else they're going to do with it, but something like that. So there are a lot of pieces that will need to be put in place. And so this goal is really, I think it's going to be tough to attain, but that's what we decided. So that was that meeting. And of course, we're continuing to get our surveys in, so we really appreciate that. Let's see, we did the special board meeting. I'm not going to go into that. Frankfurt, I think I've talked about this before, kind of before we came in, you all kind of know, but Frankfurt was asking me a lot of questions about Headley. I did bring it up. They wanted to, because they are getting questions from their citizens, right? They're coming into the clerk's office or whatever and asking questions. Hey, what does this mean? What is all this? And so they were asking me some of those questions, and I couldn't answer all of them. You know, they wanted to know exactly what that big dollar amount was. So things like that. So that was discussed. And I did say that we were getting the literature ready, and that we were going to getting those sent out. And I think you're having like a 1-pager, like just like what you were talking about, those 5 things, I think would be something really exciting too. But I appreciate being armed with this, so thank you. There will be a special election on May 5th for the Frankfurt, Alberta area schools. And that will not require early voting. So there's something there. Something that affects us at and maybe you all know this, but Suzanne Mall was hired as another City of Frankfurt police person. So she will be working for the city now. And let's see, I think those are the big things. Yes, big things there. And then I didn't make it to Crystal Lake Township. I did review some of their meeting, and they too are asking questions about Headley as well. So they'd be very interested in that. I also went to the recycling ad hoc committee that you all touched on.
Questions or comments? Gary?
Yeah,
Over on Keystone,
yes.
we used to have the city dumped their leaves there, they dumped all the wood and they ground it and stuff. Is that something
That's,
that they're looking
I
at?
think that's something
Is
that
that
they're
part of-
looking at, that
Okay.
area. Yes, and what they think is that they can do maybe 1,000 pounds of organics there, and that's the idea, is that they would kind of expand that and to have something something what's the word, more structured, more part of the recycling tapestry. But again, that's going to be a few years out. They are just in talks with that and working on kind of scaling that up.
That used to be well used.
Yes.
to say the least.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But they will not be able to scale up to what 3 counties need. And so we're going to have to partner probably with some folks downstate or something. So there's a lot to still look into, a lot that we need to do. But I appreciate that question. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Any other comments or questions? Because you touched on it, I want to come over to Katie. Katie, especially for the townships and villages where we have commissioners representing them, who's going to contact those entities to get on their agenda? Because we need more than 3 minutes during public comment to talk about the county millage.
Well, as far as the townships go, I've already put the, hey, I'd like to come. I'm on the agenda for the ones coming up, so I'll continue to do those specifically. As far as the list that I rattled off, I can contact most of them. But I don't know everybody, and when it comes to the political parties and that sort of, I don't know those folks and who to contact. That's where I would rely on this group to make those contacts. But I was just gonna reach out
So
to most of them.
So Gary, with the Republican Party, can you help her on that contact?
I can help you with the Democratic Party. And then, yeah, in City of Frankfurt, I'll be there with you.
Yep.
Crystal Lake Township. This next lake is, I believe, your turn.
You can take
I
it
don't
if you
know.
want.
You want me to take it? Okay.
So that's next week and I will be there, and Mary put me on the agenda.
Okay.
So yes, and then Gilmore's the week after that. So I'll be there. And then I sent an email to Christine from Frankfurt
Okay.
saying, hey, I'm happy to come. Here's some information.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm happy to go. I assume they'll want us there on the agenda, but I'm not gonna force it either.
Yeah, I think they would. I think Crystal Lake would like that too.
Yep. And I emailed her and she emailed me back. I just haven't read it. So maybe
Okay.
she's asking that in the email. I just haven't read the email.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we're not trying to do this during public input or during, even during the commissioner's report. I think we need that as a separate agenda item so we can get the 15 or 20 minutes that we need.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Anything else, Christie?
Thank you.
Couple things that I'll touch on. You had my report in advance, but things that I want to highlight is during the agenda review, we talked about this new software that's needed for central dispatch in order to monitor efficiencies. Right now, they really aren't monitoring it, and it turns out that we're out of compliance. So I'll remind this group that we said, this is how I remember it anyway, is that we said we'd come back and revisit this again in June so that we could find out where we're at with our budget for this year. So I want to keep that out in front of you because first, I think it'd be a great tool to know how to be able to train and our efficiencies on that. But more importantly, we're not in compliance apparently. I do want to just mention two things with the Benzie County Chamber that continue to evolve, working with an executive director, focusing on economic development. I've encouraged them to consider applying for the 2% grant. So Katie, I did point them your way to see if they could, maybe you could guide them a little bit. But that, as I told them, has to come through this board. So we'll see where that goes.
I have a call set up with Willow on Friday.
Thank you. Also, for the first time in 25 plus years, my involvement, we're having legitimate discussions about why isn't the Frankfurt Chamber and the Benzie Chamber collaborating? And although I don't want to get ahead of the board on this, their board on it at all, which I do sit on, but I think the time is right. The players are different. We're not carrying that history anymore. I think it'd benefit the community if we would go that route. I'm sure we're a long ways out from making something happen, but I thought that to be encouraging. And the last thing I want to mention is tomorrow, or I'm sorry, Wednesday, is the State of the State address. I think it's on at 7 o'clock.
That's tomorrow.
That's an important one, I think, to take a look at, folks. They're going to be talking about budgets. We're always talking about budgets here. I think that there's going to be looking for alternative ways on how you fund counties. I'd really encourage you, if you can take the time to turn that on. And if you can't, you can record it. That'd be good too. Generally, I wouldn't, I'd let you be making up your own minds, but I think it'd give you some good information as we sit at this table here. Outside of that, I'll let my report stand for itself.
Just wanted to add that MAC does they send you the thing and they have the updates, discussion on budgets, and county funding has been front and center, and actually looks like there's very little increases or no increases at all. Just typical with the state, but that's a good source too.
Yeah, because when we talk about those things and we talk about it in context to our operating millage, one of the things that I've asked Katie to look at in the last couple of business days was how much shrinkage have we had from the state towards contributing towards our budget? Because we keep talking about the shrinkage in our operating millage, but at the same time, as Rebecca pointed out earlier, we're relying more and more on the general fund to support things that over the course of several years, the state was supporting. So it's not just about getting less money from taxpayers locally, but at the state level. And Gary, you made me think of something. I guess I do want to piggyback it, because I think it's important to put out there regarding the Transportation Authority, Benzie Bus. You had mentioned that there was some discussion about the competencies at the leadership level. I want to stress, they went to their attorney and their attorney basically said, folks, there's nothing here. And probably wasn't good use of the attorney's time or their budget to do that. But at least it's now been put to rest.
As long as they waive the attorney-client privilege and forward it to what was there, just to give you a good idea what this was all about.
And they have waived it, right?
Yeah, but I'm waiting to check the minutes to make sure, because
I looked at the meeting online and it was no question it was asked to be waived.
then I'll forward it on to Katie, and Katie can.
Katie, we have decisions to make on their board next month. Is that correct?
Yeah, their appointments are in April, and so we're taking applications. I tentatively plan to put it on March 10th to establish an ad hoc for that. We have received applications for folks that are not currently serving in addition. So we have we'll have a broad list of applicants, and so tentatively March 10th. As far as the other boards that have openings approaching, I haven't received anything for them yet. So they may or may not be on March 10th. It'll just if we don't get any applications, I mean, I don't know how I bring anything forward with no applications.
What are they, Jean?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Let me pull it up.
Health Department.
So yeah,
Board of
so
Appeals.
we still have the Health Department Board of Appeals. Nobody is waving a flag of wanting to be involved on that. Unfortunately, it's been over 2 years, I think. We have the materials, let's see, also the EDC, there's 2 expiring positions. And so we'll have to either reappoint or appoint new, depending if we get any applications on that, and the Benzie Leelanau Board of Appeals specifically as well.
So those were 2, the Board of Appeals and EDC?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll look into the EDC appointments. You're talking about the county's EDC, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, we have some
Can you
terms
tell me who-
expiring.
Who's,
Just give me a second. I need to pull up the spreadsheet.
and if you want to give it to me later, that's okay.
Let's see. I need to look into this further because there's one that doesn't, there's one that doesn't look right. I don't want to speak publicly,
Just
so I've made
Let me
sure.
know so I
correct.
can do some follow-up. Okay.
Yep.
And we send a letter out to them
Yes.
anyway, right?
Carissa sends out a letter and or email, because sometimes we don't have folks' email, so she has done some snail mail letters as well. So yes, Carissa's been making sure that happens.
Good. If there's no other comments or questions for me, we're at the final public input.
Airport Authority is the other one that has an opening.
Oh,
So Gregory Johnson has been charged in Grand Traverse County with perjury, using a computer to commit a crime, and aggravated stalking, all felonies. We all just went into closed session to discuss. He's a former employee of the Benzie County Sheriff's Department. We went into closed session to discuss him. But back on August 26, 2025, we had a closed session regarding attorney-client privilege written communication regarding that. And then you appointed members of this board and members of the Sheriff's Department and the Administrator's Office to attend an arbitration with POAM Corrections. All the county's collective bargaining agreements don't expire until 2028. Closed session exemption that you utilize today states that you can go into closed session, quote, for strategy and negotiation sessions connected with the negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement, if either negotiating party requests a closed hearing. So Gregory Johnson's incarcerated currently in the Grand Traverse County Jail on a bond violation, so I don't know how he was negotiating with you. Secondly, your closed session, your agenda item says you're considering entering in closed session to discuss with legal counsel a collective bargaining matter, not an agreement. An agreement is a contract, as you all know. You've been through collective bargaining agreement negotiations in closed session. And I'm just presuming that that's not what really occurred, because you don't have any of that expire until 2028. And the motion that you made to go into closed session use the same language to discuss a collective bargaining matter regarding Gregory Johnson, not an agreement like the statute requires. And then I emailed the chairman and Ms. Seitz a case, Wexford County Prosecuting Attorney versus Pranger, Michigan Court of Appeals published opinion. And they say, quote, we interpret section 8C to permit closed strategy sessions only when negotiation of a labor agreement is in process or about to commence. So that denotes like collective bargaining agreements and labor contracts is what that exemption is for. I don't understand why you just didn't utilize the same exemption that you used back in August. Your attorney could have wrote you a 1-paragraph email that said, I'm advising you to do such and such with regards to the Gregory Johnson situation, and you could have discussed his written legal opinion under the other exemption. One last thing. Really appreciate you not going in closed session on the other matter today. I really do. I think it was good to deliberate about the purchase of the Benzoni property in open session. And Rhonda didn't attend it, but they did hold a special open session to reenact their illegal closed session, and they adopted or approved your updated notice of intent at that special meeting in open session, although it was only 10 minutes compared to their 30-minute closed session that was illegal. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other Public input? If not, I'd move for adjournment at 12:15.
Look at that.
Who moved?
They
You
heard
did.
it.
Art
Okay.
It sounded like I said it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I heard. I don't know if you said it.
All right, all
Aye.
those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.